Like 77-year-old Vince McMahon retires from WWE, opening Pandora's box of madness in a 24 hours that is unprecedented. And somehow, some way, we got a vanilla as fuck SmackDown. Almost thankfully in the middle. Money James McIvor alongside Money James McIvor alongside my partner in crime, John Enright, and the always in the know, the wisest of the wise, the vet, has joined us for this unbelievable show. This is a show I never thought we would have. I don't think anyone would have put a thought on this ever occurring. I think every one of us, if you were a betting man, you would have been convinced that Vince would die before he calls it a day. And yet here we are, under the scope of investigations, and non-disclosure agreements, legalities, and all other things that seems to be going on. Vince McMahon, just out of nowhere on Twitter as well, just announced his retirement from WWE. I've got some statements. We'll get into that later on.
Well, like it was like what, 4 hours before SmackDown was like going on the air that he announces it. It was like yesterday afternoon, which is again, I know why he did it on Twitter and what the timing of it, because part of media strategy is you dump your stuff on Friday afternoon so that there's all kinds of chaos going on and there's no like real chance to ask questions or anything along those lines. That's why you see like what they call the dump stories at the in the White House. So they all of a sudden are now, okay, we're just going to jump, these stories here. So then hopefully people won't recognize and go deal with their weekend and then come back Monday and forgotten all about it.
Yeah. Also conveniently happened after the markets closed for the day. Right. It was like 5 minutes after the markets closed, he announced his retirement. So he knew a little bit of what he was doing there, but still, wow. It's been a strange 24 hours. Yeah, it's been a really wild one. How are you doing anyway, guys? How you been? Let's get the pleasantries out of the way before we get into the deep dive of the last 24 hours. How are we doing?
I'm gonna let our guest go first.
Yeah,
the vet.
Yeah, everything's good. Nothing special to report. Back to you, John.
Oh man, Twitch! You're twitching real good, man. I gotta tell you that. If you guys aren't watching the vet on Twitch, it is quite a it's quite a viewing. So go sub to the vet on Twitch and watch him video game it up. It's been great. I've been enjoying your content. I pop in and every little bit now and then when I see you're on. Real quick, because half the time I'm usually at work when you pop on, so wow. I don't like stay on too long because I don't need people coming in and going, "What are you doing? What's that?" I'm supposed to be working, but I'm watching my friend play video games instead. Never mind. To get paid to do that one day, but things are good. As you guys can see, I am pre-beaching right now. I'm next Saturday I will be on an airplane headed to Gulf Shores to be at the beach for a week with my family. So my dad, my mom, they rent this giant house on the private end of Gulf Shores on the little island peninsula thingy there. And everybody in the family comes, my sisters, brothers-in-laws, nieces, nephews. It's a house that can sleep about 30, and we usually have about 10 people. And so it's a nice big house, private access to the beach, got its own pool, fun stuff like that. So we're going to be tanning and getting that vitamin D and just spending time together as a family on Gulf Shores. So that'll be next week. Nice. I'm flying commercial. My child, because he's a grandchild, gets to fly with my dad on a private plane to Gulf Shores because, why not? So
does he have to sign an NDA to get on that plane?
Probably. Although he did. My dad did call and say, "Hey, what's the size of your package?" And I'm like, did you mean baggage? Well, because that's what my kid said. He said baggage. I was like, I mean, did you mean
Jesus.
baggage? And he goes, yeah, baggage. You know, that's what I meant. I'm like going, okay, phrasing. You know, just.
Dad, you're being a bit too sexy for my liking.
I'm like going, oh my god, can we let's check our phrasing a little bit here. So, because then I get back from that on a Wednesday because I was supposed to go the whole week, but I can't because the next week I'm in conference all week in Dallas for the Crimes Against Children's Conference. So I basically going to get paid half a week for work for vacation, work for 2 days, and then I'm getting paid to be at the conference for the next week. So I'm not mad at that.
Nice.
We're staying at the Grand Hyatt Regency in downtown Dallas, which is pretty swanky. So I'm not again. The next 2 weeks are going to be pretty cool for me, but that's basically what I got going on. That's about it. So
Nice.
so that's Canada Spaceman, and that answers your question of who's the tourist in the Hawaiian shirt.
Shirt.
Yeah. So,
Yep. Big shout out to the chat already coming in strong. Congratulations, Elizabeth. First comment of the day. Hey guys, hey Elizabeth, nice to see you. Nice to see you all.
I may have given her the Iggy that we were about to go live. So.
Oh, totally. Of course you did.
Yeah.
Favoritism and all that. Just I'll say it every week until you've done it. Ask her out, mate. Just do it. Just get it done. Just get it done. But I suppose we should just get stuck into this. I know we spend a lot of time kind of dancing around things, talk about life and other things going on, but there's no avoiding what happened last night. Should we just start from the very beginning of the day? Because this didn't really start with Vince McMahon retiring. This actually started with Triple H taking over as Executive Vice President of Talent Relations again.
Right.
So we got the confirmation that John Laurinaitis is gone. He's no longer, as far as you know, is no longer part of the day-to-day running of the company.
Well, did you think he was going to survive? Like, of the two people, John Laurinaitis was going to be on the chopping block way before Vince McMahon, I thought. I'm just
surprised he lasted as long as he did.
I did too.
Definitely, honestly.
John Laurinaitis is a fucking cockroach.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has no value or purpose except to try to exist.
Yeah.
And I'm glad if somebody has finally stomped him out once and for all. One of the most useless human beings that's ever been in the history of the wrestling industry that's gotten to the highest levels. I mean, there have been more people more useless than him, but not that made it that far for that long,
Yeah.
So no one should shed a tear for that piece of shit. And no one should ever allow him back in any buildings. Ironically enough, though, the rumors back when, I was, front and center and involved and embroiled in the wrestling business actively was that Stephanie liked having Ace around, because and this is not my words, but a good-looking yes man, couldn't hurt. So she was kind of instrumental in replacing the old Vince guard. He had the Blackjack Mulligans and Lanzas and the Tony Gurrias and Chief J Strongbows and all those guys and the George Steeles and all those and as they were getting phased out, the Briscoes and whatever, Pattersons and everything, and Stephanie was bringing other people in. I guess he weaseled his way in with the WCW deal or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess he was popular with her. I don't know however that went over the years, but he stuck around.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that even the likes of Stephanie probably wasn't going to put up with that kind of shit for long.
No.
Not that she's some kind of a like a Mother
Saint.
Teresa herself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it certainly seems it's untenable as well. Considering the circumstances of the rest of the day, having him there would just be impossible.
Yeah, even if you did like him personally, you can't.
Yeah,
right.
Just for optics, you have to cut him.
You have to. There's no way he could have retained his job. I just you have to wonder why did it take so long? Just to me, that seems like the easiest thing to do. Well, we're gonna get rid of John Laurinaitis because that's easy. Nobody gives a shit about the guy, because
he just like I said, he's a yes man. So it feels good to have somebody put you over, and he throws other people under the bus, which, you know, I mean, those kind of people, you find those in all walks of life where you're just like, why are you here? But then, you know, you're not in the position of the people that are where you're being said yes to. So, you know, it feels good when people praise you. You know, you guys do a great job on this show every week, with or without me. How'd that feel? Pretty good, right?
That's very good. Thank you very much.
I didn't mean it, but I said it to you guys so that, you know, you'd get my point.
I needed that ego boost today as well.
Kidding. I'm kidding. That's a bit. It's called a bit.
Yeah, but it strikes me as John Laurinaitis is, as you say, he seems someone who could talk his way into that position, being friendly with Vince and things like that, and sod everyone else. Because it didn't seem like, from what I could gather, it didn't sound like the most approachable person to talent and people in general. Just, it was jobs for the boys, really. In this instance, we got jobs for the boys. John Laurinaitis is there. Kevin Dunn still kicking about for how long we don't know, but those close, that clique, that Vince McMahon clique of friends that they can, and that was a big thing about last night as well. It's like that whole circle of friends that had a stranglehold on the sort of creative side and the talent side of things. With interesting comment from Henry right there. As Ben would say, John Laurinaitis knows where the bodies are buried.
There is that.
Now
he's but now that some of the bodies have been named to been his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's attached to those.
Right. But I mean, and he's technically buried now himself. I mean, there's, you know, the question becomes, like, do you take the word of a man who just got outed for everything that he's done? You know, because then it sounds like sour grapes, you know, and you have to question, well, how much of this is real and how much of this is just someone kind of, you know, bad mouthing a company they just got let go from, even though it was their fault.
Do you think he possibly tries to throw Vince under the bus to save himself? We know where this is going to go, but there's it sounds like he would try and stooge off something about Vince that no one knows yet, just to kind of get the heat off him a little bit.
No one would. Well, it wouldn't get him anything.
No,
he's implicated and tied into everything. So he was named directly in the original allegation that we all started talking about this with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only thing I could see, because like you said, Vet, he's a cockroach. If it lessens his time to like strengthen the case against Vince McMahon to turn against him, that's what he'll do. Because, as you said, he's a carny piece of shit who is a cockroach who'll try to survive. So he'll do whatever he can to do what's best for him. And so, could he turn on Vince? Yes, I can see that, because that's the nature of the person he is, from everything that's been read and talked about and said, from firsthand, secondhand, third, fourth experiences.
But who's he going to turn on him to? That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
everybody knows what everybody did. Look,
right.
Let's take Stephanie. Let's take Hunter. Okay, they knew all of this the entire time.
Yeah,
there is no way they
don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what is he going to tell them? Like, you know, like.
Right.
Who can he go to try to bury Vince to save his job? They're going to be like, yeah, we know. We were there. Right. We're the family. We're actually related.
The conversation.
Take a hike.
And I'm thinking more legal, like less about trying to save his job. I'm thinking more like legal implications.
Save his bacon.
Save his bacon, like for life in general. Like that's more of what I'm thinking. I'm not necessarily like, he knows his job is done, but to save his bacon from having to go do whatever in prison or whatever, that would be where I would think he would do that kind of thing.
I reckon if he was to do it, it'd be more rather to kind of save himself completely. It'd be to soften the blow. You know, that'd be the only thing he'd be able to get with it, is kind of like a lesser thing.
Right.
That's speculating if he was to do that. If he was the kind of person that would like, I've got cards on the table, I could play in a legal situation that could help me out just a little bit. But it could play against him as well, because it is Vince McMahon. He is pretty rich.
Yeah.
And still a relative amount of power, I suppose. You know, you don't get into that position and don't have some kind of control of things. So it's just fascinating how this has played out over the past few weeks. And then there's more speculation, considering that another Wall Street Journal article is about to drop about this so that's part of why this has happened last night, was they're preempting what could be next. Now, either they know what's coming up next, like to the word what that report's going to say, or they have a suspicion what that's going to be. And if it's causing Vince to retire, it can't be good.
Right.
It sounds like it's indefensible as well. You know, we've talked about the NDAs over the past couple of weeks. So we've talked about maybe the circumstances and things like that, where it could be consensual or a legal sense, where, like Chris Jericho himself said, it's like it's not illegal. Like they had this relationship and things like that, and done these things. Now, whether you agree with that or not is another thing, but you know, for them there'd be wiggle room to kind of shuffle things about. Whereas what could come is there's no getting out of that. There's no escape.
Right.
This could be legal implications. This could be anything, but it's enough that they've called it. And I don't even think it's Vince that's just went, okay, I'm done. It sounds like Stephanie or someone near him has tapped him on the shoulder and said, listen, it's over.
Yeah.
Time to just call it. Like, do it for yourself. Get out of here. Let us we'll be fine. Get out of here. Go and retire. Go and enjoy the beach for the next few months that you've got left before they come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
It's
funny. It's funny. I mean, of course, if you have this guy who he rolls himself out there to make appearances after these allegations first break, but he's going to miss his own retirement. He's not going to do that. He's not going to retire in public. That means somebody said, no, you're done. Get out.
Yeah.
Put out the release. Yeah. You know, you can write it yourself.
That's got to be the board, right? I mean, that's got to be the board of directors who have that kind of power to tell him that, right?
That's a coked up lawyer losing his fucking mind that has done that as well. Like, just screaming at him. That's what that is.
Yeah. And I mean, and Elizabeth brings up a good point here. It's like that the board found, showed them the findings of the investigation, and to retire, you're fired for the cause, and everything is released by the board, So this is what I like. That was my first thought, was that basically some bad's happened more than what we know. And this is the graceful way for Vince to leave the business, per se, is to say he's retired and not have, and again, because this protects the company, he gets to the retirement, he gets, whatever retirement setup package that he's got. And then if anything bad happens at WWE's like, oh, well, he's not with us anymore. So
even though everybody can see what this is, they know what this is.
We all know, but it's
still not going to look good. Everything, because he is synonymous with this. Mm-hmm. So everything that comes out after, think anybody's going to care if he's retired? They're going to report on this just like they would have had he still been there, and they're going to say the only thing that's going to be different about the news reports and stuff is it's going to have the word former in front of everything he did.
Right.
That's it. But it's still going to be the same thing. They're going to name the WWE all over the place. They're just saying, like, we don't want you to be part of this company when all this, hellfire rains down on us. So get out is basically what's happening here.
Right. But I mean, and then the question becomes now, the viability of the company now that he's gone if these allegations go, does NBC, does Fox, do they touch WWE with, if it's as bad, if it's bad enough to make him retire, and these allegations do come out of whatever it is we're going to find out, what's the bigger impact on, like, with NBC Universal or Fox, who's paid all this money, when it's time to renew? Are we going to get, them to go, it's been fun, but,
I think it's going to be sink or swim. Like, the next few months are going to be very key as to the direction of the company, because they've got a good, despite the circumstances now, this sort of reshuffling that we're starting to see could be potential for something brilliant. They could come out 2 months from now and have an absolute banger of a product. Right. We don't know. Like, the door's open for possibilities. Like, we don't know. Like, we know Bruce Pritchard's in charge of creative right now. We were kind of talking about
let's talk about the shuffle. So, like, with this shuffle, with Vince leaving, we know Triple H is, EVP of Talent Relations.
Yeah.
I think they announced that Bruce Pritchard's now the head of creative.
Yeah.
And Stephanie and Nick Khan are co-CEOs of the company, which I find interesting. That they didn't give.
Genghis Khan is on it again. He's nearly there. He's nearly there.
Yeah.
One more McMahon and he's away, and he's got it all.
Yeah. Sonic says Mr. McMahon is all elite. That graphic has been made and it floated around. I think even Big Ray has made it and floated around.
It happens.
Yeah.
No
chance. It's already happened. But
did you see Tony Khan's tweet? He was like, "I'm now officially the longest reigning promoter in wrestling right now." It's like banter. Like people didn't like it. I had a good gig. I was like, it's like fair play. But so this big like reshuffle of things opens the door to quite a lot. I mean, kind of got hints of it in SmackDown where it wasn't all buzzwords. Michael Cole used the words fans, and it was like, holy shit. And they were you had Xavier Woods talking about New Japan and Ring of Honor.
Ring of Honor. I was like, oh shit.
Wow. Looks like they're not totally free, obviously, but there's a bit loosened. The restraints are loosened a little bit. So maybe this is the time to experiment. This is the time to kind of try things out, see what works, try something a bit fresh, bring new direction. I mean, SummerSlam's is a great time if you're in terms of creative. SummerSlam's next week. We'll talk about that in a bit. That once that's out the way, we've got a few weeks until Clash at the Castle where we can mix things up, try things new. We've got Austin Theory with Money in the Bank. So that's a storyline you've got there another little bit. So they've got the tools to need. It's just what they do with that. Now, if they can make something brilliant, I'm not saying they're going to go and make the greatest TV ever, but if they can do something that's substantially better than what they're doing at the moment, then maybe a Fox and NBC will kind of step back and go, okay, you're showing us something here. You're showing you're developing and changing. You're making it worth our while. So we'll give you a go. So yes, some of the Vince stuff will play into it, but this is a proving ground now for the new regime. They've got to kind of show that things are changing, how things are handled, the creative, not just in TV, but like backstage and how they handle talent. I think Triple H being back in the talent relations role is probably a good positive move for a lot of talent backstage. It opens the door for a lot of opportunities, and kind of from my kind of impression of things is wrestlers were a bit more at ease when Triple H was in that talent relations role. And you notice that in NXT and how that is. If Triple H can do the same role as what he did at NXT to this main roster, then already you've got a good starting point there.
Yeah,
you've got evidence.
You got a lot of those people signed.
Yeah,
so of course he is, and they're probably going to him like, "Can you please save my career now?"
Right.
Yeah. If you're Sasha Banks, you're on the phone.
Yeah.
You gotta be on the phone right now. Like, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry all this happened. Will you take me back? And if they say yes, quite a lot of talent might be on the phone right now.
But let's be honest. The biggest thing that we lose, and Rad Rob brings this up, Master Shoot Theater is,
No, they'll keep that. They'll find a way.
Yeah. You think?
That's content. That's prime content. They're not getting rid of that.
Prime content. I'm just saying,
the next season's gonna be Vince in the retirement home. That's fucking gold. I'll watch that.
There you go.
Stevie can play a nurse. He played a doctor in DNA. He's got the credentials. He knows what he's doing. There we go.
That's right.
If you do that, I want some thanks, guys. Just
wait. By the way, speaking of Stevie, I was listening to What Happened When this week, and they had when Stevie was trying to negotiate Raven's contract for WCW, and man, like I forgot like his voice when he started out, before he got injured. Like how he sounded, and it was just like, holy shit, like that's Stevie because I didn't even recognize it. They're like, yeah, here's Stevie Richards and Raven, and I'm like going, oh fuck, that's not the same man that I know that's been on our podcast and stuff. That's wow, okay. It was very interesting to hear like young Stevie, on the mic on WCW going, trying to say he was negotiating Raven's deal and stuff. Oh, it was great.
Right, hang on. I'm getting done dirty here. Sonic the Hedge Rat. Medium 5, I see you as well. Come on, lads. You know what I'm saying right now. Just because I'm fast. Just put it like half speed. Slow it down. That's how you have to do.
Do you do that live?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
We understand you. We understand you. Jimmy.
That's all that matters. Hey, it's an audience of 2 right here, Jamie. It's not.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Work professionally to work and perform for hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And here I am keeping 2.
Hey, look.
Yes.
I understand. I grew up in South Louisiana with fucking Cajuns, so you sound like a thespian actor compared to the people I grew up with.
Yeah.
So you're totally fine. You're good.
Yeah, and
Don't
I
worry.
watched Shrek 1.5 times, so I'm perfectly capable of understanding a Scottish accent.
You know what? Just for that, sorry, for the rest of this show, I'm going to do it like an auctioneer. I got Vince coming here. He's going to retire. He's going to move on. He's going to go to He's going to go over here. He's going to go to Triple H. Triple H is going to EVP. I'll just do that for the rest of the show. No, better not. That would just be shit content. Anyway, sorry, got sidetracked. Got caught out. I like to appreciate the chat now and again, even if it's saucy banner. Fair play to you guys.
So here's my question: with this reshuffle, and do we feel confident going forward with the people who are in those positions? As we move forward, the only thing I am concerned with is the co-CEO situation with Nick Khan and Stephanie. Like that seems a little weird to me. Other than the fact that Triple H makes sense. Honestly, Bruce Pritchard being in that position makes sense. The co-CEO thing is weird to me, and I feel like there's something there. Like, are they punishing Stephanie because she probably knew about what was going on, so they don't give her the full reign? Or do they feel like neither one of the 2 can handle the CEO job, so they had to split it up?
I think it's part to do with the sale. If they're still planning to sell, it probably looks a little bit better that Khan's CEO, I would imagine.
But, I think you would want the legacy of a McMahon carrying on. To as far as the sale goes,
I think that's probably why Stephanie is the figurehead CEO. She'll definitely do some work, but Nick Khan's going to be the spearhead of the sort of not the selling side of things, but maybe getting the deals done, negotiating with people and what have you. While Stephanie is in charge of, it's like sorting out your garden before you fix the street in that sense. So Stephanie's in the garden, she's going to fix that, get all the plants, all the flowers, nice and looking good. Nick Khan's going to be out there negotiating, making deals, talking to people. So it'll be a twofold job. I actually think it's a good move because they can cover a lot of ground between the 2 of them and then come back, meet in the middle for other things. And the other thing you were suggesting is maybe it's a safety ploy as well. Like, what if things get to a point where, God forbid, that Stephanie was implicated in these things? You've got someone who can slot in it right away with Nick Khan. So there's a lot of scope for them to play with this and move on with it, where they're a bit. It's a safe move. That's maybe what I'm trying to say. Gotcha. It's safer now having 2 there who can do the role and kind of split the load, and let's steady the ship. Maybe down the line, once things get settled, maybe Nick Khan steps down to a slightly lower position, and then Stephanie's on the board. Or if they eventually sell on, then Stephanie might ride off into the sunset or stay there and do a lot of her media work and philanthropy stuff as well. So they're kind of playing it safe with having them there. So there's a lot of potential and a lot of positives in that there, but how it plays out, we don't know. I mean, a lot of what could happen over the next couple of months with Vince and John Laurinaitis, it could be choppy seas for a while. So it's interesting. Yeah. But I'm a bit more positive about it. If they can figure this out, then this could be quite a fresh outlook on the company as a whole.
Right. But I guarantee you nobody had this on their wrestling bingo card this year. I mean,
not a chance.
No. We didn't. This was the other. I mean, I've often said that the only way that there would be a WWE without Vince is when he in the cold ground.
Right.
But I also didn't. I left out the other possibility of allegations of sexual misconduct forcing him out. I guess that was. I just assumed
we all knew that
may not happen. I always knew about these things. Not new, but the rumors have been out there for longer than a couple of weeks. So you know, that is what it is. But I just assumed if it hasn't happened by now, it's probably safe. So I didn't really just think it was going to go down like that.
Right.
But since it did, well then, yeah. I guess this was quite predictable then in that sense. But yeah, but this is nothing but a good thing though, guys. There is no negative aspect to this. The only thing holding, because one of you said, the pieces were already all there. They have everything they need. They've got a very talented group of people there, behind the scenes, in front of the camera. Okay. So sorry, I forgot which one, but yes, it was good old Jimmy. And I understood it when he said it too. Yeah, the only thing that was holding them back was this man and his ridiculousness.
Yeah.
So we're finally going to get, it's not going to be probably great. At best, it's going to probably be kind of like Prime NXT, but that was good enough, you know, for an American wrestling company. But yeah, just with him out of the way and, you know, with all, like you already mentioned about the, you know, some of that language, the specific language that he likes to use, you know, WWE Universe, medical facility, you know, all those things that people won't have to be worried about, like, if they're going to piss Vince McMahon off by saying something they shouldn't say. Like, that right there is already a huge morale booster. Yeah. All his backwards ideas and stuff like that are going to be gone. There may be new, stupider ones in their place, but, you know, you also have a writing team now that can, you know, it can be, I'm not saying it will be, but it can be more of a meritocracy. Write a good show, get the show on the air. Not work, you know, over the weekend and extra overtime hours to get something done only to have it be ripped up right in front of you, you know, when you go over the pre-show meetings and stuff. Like, that's not going to happen anymore. Yeah. No one's going to want to have a team work on a show and then just rip it up in front of them. There was only one man that wanted to do that. You think Triple H wants to rewrite a show in 2 hours? Of course not. So they're going to, you know, these guys are going to get to sink or swim on their own merits of writing, and then the people that can't cut it will be quietly dismissed because we never hear about these people. They get changed over more than we change our socks. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to get to see some, you know, some better stuff, I would think. I don't see a downside to this at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I mean, it's we're beginning to see that last night, James, when you talked about some of the phrasing, some of just the different things we're getting ready to hear. It gives you that hope that, okay, I can trust kind of what's going forward with this. I mean, I'm not saying all of a sudden we're going to be in, you know, 2002 level, you know, 2002 level writing where we're, you know, wrestling's back to that level of, you know, writing and storytelling and, you know, audience numbers. But I guess that what I'm trying to say is they can only go up from where they're at right now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we still have stupid stuff like the Shillelagh match that's going to happen next week before SummerSlam.
They probably didn't want to tear that up and rewrite it. That's why it happened.
There's a few things that slipped through the net last night.
Yeah. You know, I mean, with Drew McIntyre and his mall store Claymore that cuts through a pre-cut Shillelagh that Sheamus has to make sure to grab the right one to do. You know.
We'll have an ODQ match, but don't bring your sword.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. You know, I mean, but hey, the Viking rings are bringing their shields to the ring and they're using them. So hey, we're getting.
They're still new and vicious though, which I don't like.
Yeah. I think that'll go very quickly.
I thought that would have been the easiest thing to drop. Like,
yeah, okay,
sweetheart, you don't have to say new and vicious anymore. I know you never wanted to say it, but you don't have to say it when you announce them to the ring anymore. But she did. At least once more.
Yeah, this was like very. We'll talk about Smackdown in a bit, but like it felt very like, you know, when your teacher goes out for the week and you get a substitute, you can kind of get away with a little bit more, but there's still a lesson plan that you've got to work through. So there was little bits like the Viking Raiders doing their stick and some of the ways it laid out. It was like, okay, Vince has maybe had a say in this. But then you've got someone like Xavier Woods talking about New Japan, and then Michael Cole being a bit looser on commentary. It's like, all right, they feel like they can get away with a little bit more right now. So I think it was a mix of that. Like they've maybe had the lesson plan already made in place, but the kids knew they could kind of get away with a little bit more than what they used to. So I like that. A couple of comments I want to kind of bring in before we carry on. Some really good by the way, great comments in the chat, by the way. Well done, everyone. You're bringing it tonight.
Oh, before whichever one you're about to put up, Jimmy, I want to address one from Gully Blanchard. Actually,
that's exactly where I was going to go with that.
That's where you're going. Go and put him up. The first one.
Yes, the first one.
If you guys think he's not going to be involved or giving input anyway while he's retired, you're crazy. And then the other one, his daughter's still in charge. He will be in her ear. Okay, well, let's not forget that he has not been everything like resembling courteous to his daughter recently. In fact, in case you already forgot, she was pushed out right before she got brought back when all this shit went down. And let's not forget about the treatment of her husband's life's work while he was in the hospital laid up with a cardiac event, which we also wouldn't say anymore now. Right. And on top of that, just forget all that stuff. Since when are you going to have a child that's listening to their old doddering father saying stuff like, yeah, dad, sure, that's right, The only difference before is he actually had power. Right. Now he has none. She doesn't have to listen to him anymore. And I don't think she wants to. And I'm not sure she ever did at this point, the way things are going. You know, this has been a long time coming. I want to dig more into this, so I want to save some of this back for my next level wrestling review, the Big Ray, because we have been dealing directly with Triple H and his product and his students and all this stuff for a long time. So I want to get more into the Triple H side of this on that. So I'm not going to get too into it here, but you know, just a little tease for that. Please tune into the next level wrestling review, because I've got an idea that you know, it's like I tweeted a friend of mine. Or not tweeted, I texted a friend of mine, to say, you know, as soon as I got the news, I was like, which the funny thing is, you mentioned my Twitch channel, John. We were actually, Sonic and Bobo and Media M5 and I were all playing a game at the time, like live on stream in the chat when the news broke, and we were talking about it a little bit on there. So that's kind of funny. So anyway, as soon as I got that news, I texted my friend and said, they finally got the old man out. And he said, I was just about to text you. And my response was something to the effect of, you know, it's one thing to, you know, fuck all the divas and office workers you want and pay them off. But, you know, when you try to fuck your son-in-law and forget he's the cerebral assassin, maybe all of a sudden some NDAs got D'd.
Right.
You know, just full food for thought.
Yeah. Do you think... No, like this whole thing that's played out after yesterday, that Triple H came back and took over talent relations. Do you think that now fills the gap in the jigsaw puzzle where he came to NXT and said, I'm back?
Of course.
Because when he came back, he said, I'm back. And then nothing really, like he wasn't actually back as a full-time role at the time. He just sort of came and announced himself, got involved a little bit and went away.
Because he knew.
He already knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But think about it, guys. Think about all of this. It goes back way farther than this.
Right.
Triple H was playing the game the long way.
Yeah.
He was perfectly content to marry the boss's daughter, you know, to get what he wanted. This was always what he wanted, one way or another. You know, that's how much he loves the wrestling business. He had to be at the top of it one way or the other. True. And I'm sure he was willing to wait, you know, and just do things like, you know, like he's patiently waiting his turn. Yeah. And maybe this stuff got accelerated all of a sudden because of these things. So,
totally.
But yeah, you can't tell me that this wasn't always the plan for him.
Oh no, he's been waiting there for a long time.
Oh yeah, he was the proverbial next in line, you know, for the longest time. And the question becomes now, we see the laxing of like the rules and everything, are wrestlers who come from other places going to keep their identities? You know, because Vince was a big on that. You know, he changed Casey Catanzaro to some other stupid name, which I refuse.
Yeah.
The Viking Raiders, who were War Machine, way better name. I mean, are these...
The Dyad?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Are we going to, or is that still going to be part of status quo for WWE? Is someone who's made their name on the independents and they come in and WWE goes, "Hey, you're now John Smith. Go have fun."
I wish it was a name as normal as John Smith.
Yeah. I mean, I know they come up with some of
the free man.
Yeah. But I mean, are we going to see those kind of changes to where like it's that idea like with Bruce Pritchard being creative, like, well, shit, you got over with that name. Let's just keep that name.
I say yes.
Yeah.
And to my earlier point about NXT, like think about in the years right when the network launched, right? I mean, Triple H was bringing in guys like Shinsuke Nakamura, whose name is
Shinsuke Nakamura,
and to this day on SmackDown is referred to as
Shinsuke.
Right. How about some guy named Samoa Joe? That would have seemed like a layup for them to change, right?
Right.
Like, I don't like this name. It's stupid. But no, he got it. So some people did get to keep their names for a certain period of time.
Right.
AJ Styles comes in as AJ Styles. Like there were things, like that, and then they got away from it more. But I think it's going to be that, and we're going to see the possibilities of being open to work with other promotions now. Because again, the big difference between Triple H and Vince McMahon is Vince McMahon's not a wrestling fan.
Right.
Triple H is.
Right.
So he can get a sense of what people want to see, and he's got a sense of what he wants,
Yeah.
So it should be very interesting going forward to see just how much influence he has, which will be a lot. But to see how the show will take shape
right.
with all that. And again, just getting Vince out of the way was the best thing that could have ever happened for everyone involved, pretty much.
True. It does. I mean, it's a 77-year-old man making decisions and still doing the things that he did in the 80s. And, you have to, and like I said, there's no delicate way to tell him to get out of the way. And so the fact that it had to come this way, though, where you send a tweet, you're not seen, and off you go into the sunset 4 hours before SmackDown and right after the market closes. I mean, it's an interesting way, and with allegations of everything happening on top of all that, I think it's one of those things. People are talking about Steph running creative. Steph's not in charge of creative. People need to remember that. She's the CEO now. She's not involved. Richard is involved with creative.
Yeah, I think she's good with that. I
So,
don't think she's
people saying, "Oh, we'll see how she runs SmackDown and Raw." She's not involved with that. She's on the next level up. That's what Pritchard's for. Now, Stephanie was involved with creative back in the day. I do know that. I knew, like in the 2000s to a certain time, because Bruce Pritchard talked about how basically she eventually became his boss, and she and him argued about creative and what to do. And so, but she's not a part of that anymore. Her job is above that level. So first of all, people saying how's she going to run SmackDown? She's not. She's not running SmackDown. She has an entire company to take care of. She's moved beyond that. We're in the age of Bruce Pritchard with creative. So the question becomes, how does Bruce Pritchard build out of this hole that's been dug by Vince McMahon for the last 10 to 15 years? How does he come out of this hole and go forward? Does he have the creativity? I mean, let's be honest. Bruce is not a spring chicken. He is an older gentleman. Does he have the wherewithal and the creativity to build out of this hole? And that's really the question we should be asking because the TV is the main thing for this company to survive. And to be able to make this company continue to be viable despite everything, the TV needs to be above of where it's at right now. And so that's really the big question.
Well, Bruce is not sitting there writing scripts. He's more of a talent producer.
Right.
So that's not going to be his problem either. Even if he's head of creative, it's going to be a lot of stuff run through him, but then that's going to have to be run through other people. The good thing for Bruce is, he's not a young man, but he's also not going to have to stay up long hours like a lapdog at Vince's feet. Like with all this insane shit that he does. he's sad that you know, because he loves Vince probably, but he's also
Right.
quietly relieved because Vince isn't actually dead, so he can talk to him whenever he wants, but it just won't have to be at his beck and call every, you know, like on call like 24/7 like a doctor
Right.
or something.
Right. You know what I mean? I think, like you said, I know he's head of creative, and so eventually the buck stops with him. But he's going to have a team, and he'll probably be able to go, "Hey guys, what if we do this? Write me something and bring it to my attention. Let's tweak it. Let's figure it out." And but he's going to be where the buck stops as far as creative goes. In that sense, I know there's a team and everybody going on, and so you know, WWE has built their product on television and production. In that aspect, and so that's, I think, really it's the big question is how is TV going to go forward from this point? Being now Vince is not in control, Bruce is, and like you said, it's going to be. I have a feeling there's going to be a meritocracy with these writers. You know, we're going to see writers' names like we did with you know, Freddie Prinze Jr. and the guy who's with The Rock now. He wrote like everything for The Rock in the 2000s and stuff, like Brian whatever his name is, Brian Gewirtz and stuff like that. We're gonna start hearing more of those names because they're gonna be writing these things and seeing the change and going, oh hey, that was this guy, and their names are gonna become more prominent because we're gonna be hearing this, which is not something we've heard in the last 10 years since Brian Gewirtz left. You know, because it's all because you know, Vince is scrapping everything and tearing everything up. It's all shit and doing his thing at, you know, 2 hours before. You know, having some stability, it sounds like probably will be freeing creatively, I would think, for these guys. You know, and so, but you still have to question, what do they have in the tank? You know, do you have to clear your writer's room a little bit because you've been under Vince for so long? You know, do you have to make a purge to bring in fresh blood?
No, because like I said, those people already get purged on a weekly, monthly basis or whatever. That's why you don't know any of their names. You can't name me a writer there.
Yeah.
So they just will keep everybody right now will have a job, and then after a while they'll be like, all right, well, this person actually doesn't do anything, so we can give somebody else a chance and free this spot up.
Mm-hmm.
If Bruce has listened to a minute of this podcast over however long I've been here for it, he'll finally fulfill my dream of a systematic restructure of the creative process where you allocate creative writers to a specific storyline and producers and have them work on their own segments and present it to him. So then you have a dedicated team to what's going on. You're not chopping and changing. You're focused on that. You don't have someone at the top like Vince writing this out completely. Their job is to dedicate this, to present this. I want draft 1, draft 2. So draft 1 by Sunday, or draft 1 by Monday after Friday, draft 2 by Wednesday. We should be ready to go by Friday. Like, that's my kind of creative writing team. It's like they should spend time with the wrestlers, time around everyone involved in that storyline. So say, for example, tag team title match, Usos, Street Profits. I want 1 or 2 writers in that room, bring them in, they spend time with those two, and let's drum up an idea of a storyline, and let's get the writers to specifically tighten it up, make it work, and present that to Bruce Pritchard, who can oversee that, proofread it. Right, okay, try this, what about this, go back to it and move it back. So by the time you get to Friday... Yes, we're afraid. Woohoo!
Jimmy, you can tell James has no idea how shit works.
Yeah.
No, I live in a theater world. That's
well,
where a theater world looks.
These aren't exactly playwrights, McIvor. In case you haven't been watching for 20 years.
And this is not Saturday Night Live either.
But you can see where it can come from, though. Is like there's got to be like Bruce Pritchard has to be the channel to get these all out. You don't want him to be the guy that changes everything. You want him to be like, okay, this, maybe change this, and come back to me, and we'll get this out. Because you want consistency and you want quality. If you have someone like Vince Stranger, there's absolutely no way that Vince McMahon has spent time with every single wrestler that's on his show or fully understands their characters and things like that. Now, he can micromanage as much as he wants, but if you want someone who's going to dedicate 4 weeks between one pay-per-view to another, you need to allow that. Like, he's not going to sit down with these wrestlers and say, right, what do you like? What can you do? What's your pros? What's your cons? How can we elevate your positives? Because that's the thing we've got to do. We've got to heighten the positives, hide away the negatives, and promote and make things work. So when they go there, so you've got your producers for the wrestling matches, your creative team makes sure the storylines are tight and work well. And when the promo comes down, they sound good, they lean into their positives, and they work. So when you've got Bruce Prichard who can kind of channel that, structure that into a show. So by the time you get to Thursday or Friday morning, there's the plan. There's no ebbing and flowing. There's no changing. That's what's happening. It's on to the wrestlers now to be on point. They now have the task of making that work. There's no sort of like last minute changes. They know what was coming. They know what the plan was. They know what was going to work. Here we are. And it's very sink or swim for a wrestler. Like, there's some talents that will manage okay, like there have been, like Roman Reigns, Street Profits, things like that. There's people who have managed with like last minute promos and stuff like that. But there's a good chance for like the Liv Morgans, Ronda Rousey, say, and other talents like Madcap Moss, Austin Theory. Like, these talents that might not get as much promo time, or the ones who do that aren't doing as great, they now have structure. They now have something in front of them. They now have a strategy where they can know what's going on. They've got plenty of time to prepare. So when they get there, it's fine tweaking, getting it sorted, and just getting it out there ready. I'd rather have a polished show with everything tight, worked on, produced, and focused on than holy fuck, what's happening between 2 hours ago to now. If that makes any sense. I don't want to hear stories of scripts being ripped up and thrown there. I want consistency. I want knowing what's going on. I want to know what's going on days ahead of time. Because if we don't know what's going on, if we come into the show on the night, if you're like, I don't know what's going on, there's always going to be mistakes. It's always going to be rubbish. And then you get shows like what we've had for months where it's just vanilla and it's the same thing over and over and over again. We need to change that. We need to break the cycle. And this is a good chance to do it. And that is my dream. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
It's a fine dream, James.
It's maybe
I hope
asking
something
a
like
lot.
it comes true one day.
It's maybe asking a lot, but the positives are there. And what it can do potentially is massive. Like, we're looking at a wrestling promotion where like popularity is going down the drain. It's not as big as it used to be. This is a chance now where they can jump on things, and maybe things will happen through the week in like pop culture, in the news, in the zeitgeist, where you got to jump on it, and that's fine. But you need time to make sure you've got that tight. Don't just quickly throw in there for buzzwords or whatever. Like, give me quality and give the wrestlers that chance. Because you look at NXT when things are going well, like, you know, they've had time to work on their matches and work on their storylines and things like that and their promos, and it shows.
Well, you got a sense of who everybody was, even if they didn't get like a ton of vignettes or a ton of promos, but they would just they would have the, what were those guys called? CFO. They would have CFO make an entrance song for that person, and the entrance song would damn near tell you the whole story. So you just be like, okay, I get who this character is right as they walk out. They have their entrance, they have their gear, they have this song. I know who they are, even if I don't know the details. I kind of get who they are. They were very good at that. And so they were serving people up to to Vince on a silver platter, saying, here's your pre-made superstar ready to go and make money for you. And he's like, well, I've never seen this person before in my life. I see them more as something else. And then he just ruined that. It was a macro version of ripping up a script. You ripped up 8 months to a year of time, money, and training and development and stuff like that, just to say, I'm going to give you this completely different gimmick and change your name.
Yeah.
So with that being gone, now we can see, hopefully, the developmental process work the way it was always supposed to. Instead of having NXT on an island, then now it's like actually part of the process of bringing and developing these characters.
Right. So that means we get Dominic Mysterio going to NXT?
Please.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
But I mean, I think that you're right that we're going to see a symmetry between everything and like it should be, and like I think that's the hardest thing right now with the NXT product. Like, I try to watch, but I don't know anybody because I don't know them from outside wrestling. It's like all of a sudden they all appeared on, WWE TV, and I'm like, where did they come from? I've never heard of them from, Ring of Honor, AEW, anything along those lines, any independents that they come from. All of a sudden, these people are on these shows, and they're supposed to be stars, and I'm going, but who are they? The only reason why, I understand who Braun Breaker is because that's Rick Steiner's kid. Which, by the way, you should be calling him for whatever fucking Steiner, not Braun Breaker. But that's the whole point. Is when they did this rebrand, all of a sudden everybody I knew was gone, and there are people coming in, and I'm going, yeah, but who are you? Like, I don't get it, who this person is, and it's now all of a sudden. I get that you're training these people. I get you're doing this, but we had the NXT Largo Florida loop that they would do before they come to NXT TV, before they made their way for Vet's lack of a hating phrase, the main roster. There was a flow, there was a dynamic, because even with that NXT Florida loop, they're making a name for themselves, and it's like hyping themselves up. Hey, if you haven't seen this is who we have upcoming, and this is what they did at NXT Largo or whatever. And you're like, whoa, who is this person? This is interesting. And then they get some time on TV, and then boom, the next thing
Never mind. You're trying to tell people that they should watch NXT on Tuesday nights on the network that Raw is on.
Right. Yeah.
But then you want to, but then when they do watch it and then they see somebody come to Raw and now their name is completely changed.
Exactly.
That's a completely wrong-headed way of doing things. And the whole reason that the main roster thing, that whole joke started, because I was tired of people, even though they were correct in a way, I was tired of people saying it like it's a different thing than NXT, because even though NXT is like a step, the step below before you make it to the big time or whatever, but it's still part of the company. And if you signed a guy and they're in NXT, that's on your roster. There's no main roster. That NXT roster is very important because you had guys there. Are you going to say that, yeah, I'm sorry, Bobby Roode, you need a little more time in the oven. Go to NXT. Like, why does he not get to be called a main roster talent? So it was more just like a joke about how that phrase was annoying because of the way the WWE treats their farm system as not even part of the same system. Right. They treated it like an indie.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, in a way, it wasn't bad. And then how many times did it save their bacon when they had issues with the roster? Like when they got trapped in Saudi Arabia, they brought up the NXT, roster against SmackDown. Save that show. It was a great show.
Brilliant.
It was really well done. And I mean, when we see that they do those things in sometimes and they interact, it's done very, very well. But again, that's because Triple H had a hand in the things, in handling that kind of stuff.
He jumped on commentary as well.
Yeah, I mean. It was very well done, and it goes back to the fact of I think that's the way it should be. NXT should be treated like an indie per se, because it gives it that different raw feel that, for part of the pun, of a raw feel, but it gives it that more what we're used to when we see a wrestling show on TV with Ring of Honor, or when we see when you go to an independent show. We like that because it helps encourage us to, well, maybe I'll go see a guy at my independent show next week. I'm going to VIP before I leave for, the beach. I'm getting an independent show in because I might see somebody on, that show next week who might end up in NXT or AEW. I mean, hell, my buddy Chandler is about halfway to AEW right now. I mean, is he dating Red Velvet? Yes, he is. That's really cool. But I mean, he's doing some moves and he's making a name for himself. And I got to see him, 3 years ago in a local show here. Those are the kind of things that make me want to watch independent wrestling and then watch NXT when I bring in these names that people know and they don't change the names and they don't do the kind of stuff where I'm going, what? I mean, but I like that indie feel that it gets because it makes it different and stands out and go, this is not, it didn't feel like part of the machine in a way, which was, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's what I liked about NXT back in the day when it was the black and yellow and everything along those lines. Did I like that Adam Cole was the champ? No, I didn't like that. But,
way back in the dark days of earlier this year.
Yeah, well,
When it was
or
still
on
black and gold.
AEW, yeah.
Many moons ago in
but I mean,
January 2022.
It feels like a lifetime ago. Let's be honest. I mean, it really does because of the shaking and moving of things and people. It feels like a completely different product. Like trying to be polished and everything that Raw and SmackDown are, and that's not what NXT was. It wasn't that for a reason, and that's why I liked it. So I hope they go. In a way, I kind of hope they revert because those are the things I enjoyed and would help me get back into NXT. Because now one of the regular NXT tag teams has the NXT UK title. There's that.
Be right back.
Go for it. But
because they're trying, because they're still trying to. I mean, why do we have an NXT UK? You might as well try to get some synergy, I guess, with your own company. Like, hey, make people aware of NXT UK. I just don't have the physical time to watch NXT UK anymore. I would like to because they have some people there that I like.
Right.
But I just can't. But that's a good way to bring the awareness of that brand. Just put it on the NXT show on USA and then get people, maybe some people will want to check it out.
Right. Well, I mean,
those are the kind of things that you feel like with Vince in charge, because he doesn't know who anybody is and he doesn't care, then we're not even thinking about things like that. That's not a primary focus. It's not no one's thinking of like Triple H is thinking in like 2013, 2014, whatever. Triple H is thinking, I'm signing a guy that's going to be the future of this company and therefore this business, because everybody follows what the WWE does as the industry leader. So how many guys can Triple H scout, with help from William Regal and all those other guys? How many guys can he scout and help develop and put the time in with and just say, yes, this is my guy, and then just go up there, and then all of a sudden it's Bearcat Keith Lee, and he's wearing a tennis skirt, and then you're just like, oh my God, what the hell? Like, how many times can that happen before you lose your damn mind and or perhaps have a cardiac event?
Right. Yeah. And we're even seeing that still with the NXT, because JD McDonough, who was Jordan Devlin, is now a different name as he for some reason, when you cross the pond, you either have to lose your wrestling gimmick name or you have to use your real name, whatever the fuck you're doing there. I mean, and we're seeing that now.
One I can accept though, because if you search for sorry, was it PD McDonough? What was his first name again?
It's JD McDonough, because he was Jordan Devlin, so they kept Jordan Devlin.
If you search for Jordan Devlin, there's a lot of problematic stuff that shows up. But if you look for JD McDonough, there's nothing. So it's a bit safer. I can kind of get that one. I'm not condoning it, but I can kind of understand why they've done that.
Look at all the people that they've brought over that they've changed their names. It's like I said, it's like you cross the pond. And all of a sudden, you either got to use your shoot wrestling name, or you got to come up with a different name, or you lose everything because, well, that's British, so that doesn't work in America. And no, you brought in Zack Sabre Jr. I mean, you've had British names before, Lord Alfred Hayes, Sir William Regal. I mean, it's not like we have to have a whatever, Eli Drake. Shit. I mean, the name change thing is that's got to be one of the first things to go.
Yeah, Grizzled Young Vets hurt a lot for me. Watching that when they showed up as a dyad and they changed their names, I was like, you're joking me, man. Like that, you've got a ready-made tag team. They've done a great work on NXT UK, and then you've transferred it to NXT, and they've done great work there. I mean, just do something with them, and then you're like, let's put them in a secondary storyline where they're like half-assed wished druids.
Yeah.
To fulfill, for what purpose, for what reason, when you could have them challenge for tag titles and maybe be like the top heel tag team as tag champs and do something with it, because they're great. brilliant.
Zach Gibson could be a main event talent heel,
Yes.
period.
Absolutely. Like,
Yeah.
his promos are banging.
Yeah.
Like, if you want heat from someone, Zach Gibson will pull no punches. Like, I remember some of his ICW promos, and he was no
And
mercy.
He's young as hell too, isn't he? Like,
yeah,
in his 20s still.
20s. Yeah, he's still really young.
So, a guy like that, to me, him even being in a tag team with a guy like James Drake, which I have no necessarily a problem with, but he doesn't, let's face it, he's really got nothing to offer the wrestling business.
Right.
Yeah.
Zach Gibson, on the other hand, does. So, hopefully he'll be able to realize that one day.
Like, could you imagine him with a feud with Drew McIntyre or something, and just spouting venom on a or even like, I don't know, who's like a very all-American babyface right now? I don't think there's many.
Nobody, everybody's a heel, but still,
everyone's a heel.
We could get away from that too, because now you won't just be turning people heel because the shitty promos that you gave them because you ripped up the script at 3 in the afternoon didn't get over, so now you have to turn them heel. Right. Now you can actually have some baby faces.
Yeah.
My dream's coming true.
And let's be honest, the Grizzled Young Vets, it took me surprised that I was like, wait, I know these guys. I recognize them, but who are they? They're the dyad now. Why can't I put my finger on them? Oh, because they changed their fucking name again to something fucking stupid. And let's be honest,
of them not called Jagger Reed or something?
Yeah, something like that.
What the fuck?
Yeah, like something that starts with a D and something with Jagger Reed. And but like this tag team is the prime example of the Rock and Roll Express. You have the talker, and you have the guy who's just like, that's cool. What he said. Let's be honest. Ricky Morton and it was the mouth of the Rock. He's what brought the money to the bank. Robert Gibson. He was just the guy who did the great work in the ring as well. But you didn't need him for the promo because you had Ricky, and that's the same way with this. And yet we feel the need to do this stupid ass shit again. Rip Fowler, Jagger Reed, and Rip Fowler. Thanks, Elizabeth. Is what they? Yeah, what the hell? For real? What the hell?
But again, now we don't have to worry about any of this. This is we're done with this. All these things will be corrected now. And even stuff like that, like those guys doing that thing with the Joe Gacy and whatever. Come on. Vincent McMahon had nothing to do with that. There's no way he even cared or even could have, you could have shown him an 8x10 of each of those guys and he wouldn't have been able to tell you who they were, any of their names they used. Right. He would think he never saw them before. So even he's not doing stuff like that, but it's people doing things like that because they think that's what they're supposed to do because Vince is the boss. That's what's going to go away. And that's makes it exciting in the transition period right now to see, to look at the patterns and see, hey, what exactly is going to change? Stuff like that probably not going to happen as much, which is good.
The day that Gunther becomes Walter again should be celebrated as a national holiday. Oh,
well, and then
wait.
We don't
I hope
have
the storyline leads to it. That he finishes off Nakamura and just be like, I will not tolerate failure anymore. The name Gunther is attached to failure. I am Walter.
Once more, yeah. Well, and then Ludwig doesn't have to be Ludwig anymore, and we can get that stupid Giovanni whatever in NXT off of Fabian Eichner, and we can get all that done.
I kind of like it.
No.
He came out of that. He looked like a boss when he came out like that. I was I'll accept it. I'll take it.
You did not have to give him a fucking Gucci name to do that.
No, but he looks Gucci. That's for sure.
Well, but I'm saying you didn't have to change the name to do it. No. That's the whole point. You didn't have to do any of that stuff with. But I suppose,
that sounds a bit more mob name than Fabian Eichner. To be fair, not that match is all that great. I can kind of accept it, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, man, this tells you how much of an open door this has become with Vince leaving. We're an hour and 10 minutes into the show. Woof. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, it opened. This just explains how much of a realm of opportunity and wonder, to put it in a kind of expressive way, is there's so much that could happen, but like from here on, like from your initial question of like when we talked about Fox and NBC and how they look at the company and things like that, here it is on a plate. You know, USA is tied into NXT. Like, if this hits the ground running, if this gets some traction, if things kind of say them out, then don't be saying Mob when Tony D sounds like a wish version of Tony Soprano.
True.
There's no topping Tony Soprano. Let's be totally fair there. But yeah, like the realms of opportunity is there. It needs to be seized. It needs to be taken advantage of now. And I get kind of excited. Like, I was kind of coming into this podcast kind of thinking, man, we're going to talk so much about Vince and the legalities of things they're going to do. What could happen if he gets done, if this gets to the court, if this goes to like other things. But here we are, an hour or so into the show, and what we're talking about right now is what could be. And it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time. And that shows the positives of this happening.
Partially because, James, a lot of the stuff we just can only speculate on, and everybody else is already doing it. You know, like we're going to have these people, and we just need to wait and see what comes out. What are the reports? What actually are we going to get this concrete, rather than all this stuff that's getting stirred up? Mm-hmm. You know, we don't want to be just another people stirring it up like what we speculate could happen. Yeah. All I can say is about the Vince thing, just I don't know if we're wrapping up talking about it or if we're going to keep talking about it.
We can carry on as much as we want. We've got plenty of time.
But you guys are going to see going forward, no matter what happens for the next, you know, you saw some yesterday, and you're going to see people that are like, you know, a lot of people on social media, whatever, you know, saying like, thank you, Vince. They even had the thank you, Vince chant on SmackDown and stuff. And
fucking
all these people like saying, you know, well, I don't condone what he did, but my childhood, you know, and you're going to see this outpouring of like gratitude and all this other shit. And just nobody ever please lose sight of the fact that this man is only gone because he's disgraced out of the position due to things that he definitely did, even though they're only alleged right now, but he definitely did them, and he would never have done this on his own. And this is the least that he deserves. He deserves a far worse fate than this. Right. So don't forget that. And all those great moments that you're thanking him for were brought to you by other people that were exploited by him. So thank them. Thank those guys. Thank the Hulk Hogans or the Bret Harts or the Shawn Michaels or the
Stone Colds,
you know, the Undertakers or the Stone Colds and the Rock. Thank those people that actually carried out the memories for you. Mm-hmm. Vince McMahon's ideas was giving you Doink the Clown and TL Hopper and, you know, like that. Those were like the things that he is responsible for. Those are all the very bad ideas. That's what you can thank him for. Anybody could have come up with the idea to like make wrestling bigger than it was and add celebrities. Like, it's not such a true visionary kind of a thing. You know, one thing I always think of is like when people give all this credit to Vince, and you really think about like, well, really, what was Vince responsible for that you can say like, hey, this was a 100% a good contribution to the business, didn't hurt anybody or anything, it was actually very productive, that you can really just lay at his feet. And I think about the movie Jobs. Do you ever see the one with Ashton Kutcher where he played, you know that one? I mean, you may not have watched it, but you know it came out.
I was about to go to Butterfly Effect because that seems to be the go-to.
Ashton Kutcher played Steve Jobs in the movie.
Oh, yes. It was called Jobs. Or was it?
Yeah, Jobs. It was called Jobs, right? Now, I'm fully aware that that's a movie and there's dramatizations and everything was done for entertainment effect. But not really knowing anything about the man and his life and watching this movie, what I took away from it was that Steve Jobs got to where he was because he just bullied Wozniak into doing everything. Right. That's basically the message I took away from it. Yeah. So Vince had people that would do what he said, and he, you know, pushed people around to get what he wanted. You know? Ended the territory days and all these other things. And it's not like he created the company. He he's the third guy in line for the
Right.
company that he got it. So it's not like he created something out of thin air as some kind of genius, you know? I just want you to temper all of your gratitude towards Vince McMahon with the knowledge of, but can you really give him the actual credit for a lot of that stuff? I mean, I guess you can. If he bullied everybody into doing whatever he wanted for 40 years, then I guess you can be grateful for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But don't feel guilty if part of you's like, but fuck him too, you know? Like don't shy away from that feeling.
Yeah, because that was something I kind of had in the chamber coming into this, was that there's a time and a place. You know, this whole like Stephanie doing the thank you Vince chants, Gerald Briscoe getting very like defensive about it as well. It's like there's a time and a place. Yes, you can recognize some of the things that Vince McMahon's done and his involvement and his part of the company and how he's played a part in things like the Attitude Era. I mean, he was a playing piece in that, and obviously WrestleMania and things like this. Of course, you can kind of show respect and gratitude for those sort of things, but there's a time and a place. You know, this is not the time or the place. I hate to tell you, but this, like, a lot of this, like, doing the thank you Vince chants at WrestleMania. Oh, someone's on the run in the background there, but all these thank you Vince chants and all this being like, oh, we respect this. Like, this isn't the time. This is a very the whole thank you Vince chants today was very politicized, like much like Vince McMahon, who came out on the day that these allegations came through. They're just playing the game and trying to get a reaction out of the crowd because it makes it seem a lot better than what it is. It makes it sound like he's a lot more appreciated and respected than what is. And you're fully right, Vet, is you can't deny what's happened. You can't ignore what's going on. You have to see this for what it is. Vince has, for better or worse, done these things. From the NDA side of things, we can talk about the other things down the line if it becomes apparent. But you know, he's not the squeakiest of wheels. He's not clean by any stretch of the imagination. We can't let him off the hook for that. And yes, you can respect what he's done in the industry, but you've got to call him out on the things that he's done. And that's like Gerald Briscoe calling people marks for being angry and saying your miserable lives, your lives would be more miserable what they are now if it wasn't for him. It's like, it doesn't fucking matter right now. Like, that's a totally different discussion. Like, Vince, also, that's what he's done. He's got to come to terms with that.
I quote tweeted that tweet and said, the mark that runs Gerald Briscoe's Twitter account are calling marks marks.
Yeah, so dumb. It was out of hand.
You think Gerald Briscoe even knows how to work a smartphone, let alone use Twitter?
What's the internet? Like, fucking right, Briscoe, fuck off. A comment I want to bring up, Buckshot Kid, thanks for coming to join us in the chat, much appreciated. The important saying WSD might still be shit. All this talk is what ifs, and
no, it's still gonna be shit, but it's gonna be shit in a different way.
Yeah,
like in a slightly better shit. It won't stink as much, or it won't be as big of a pile, or whatever it is.
Right.
Yeah, but
we're kind from a cow patty to like more like maybe a human size, you know.
Yeah,
shit.
One of those dry cat shits, perhaps.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe.
But what we're trying to say is like there's opportunity there. That's what we're trying to highlight. We're not saying it's going to be brilliant and all roses and things like that. It's opportunity. Gully Blanchard. I'm just going through some of the comments as we go as well. Gully Blanchard.
I wanted to talk about this one too, so I'm glad that you put that up.
Oh wait, is that the first one? I was going to go for the second one, but we'll talk about the first one as well. Vincent Scumma doesn't mean he hasn't worked his ass off and made huge contributions to the business. And the one I was kind of pointing out and that related is you can't take away his achievements. No one else has done what he did in wrestling and last this long. True, but that's what we're saying is you can't.
Someone would have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Eventually, and the other thing too is like on the other side of the coin, like he worked his ass off and made huge contributions to the business. On the other side of the coin, though, how much did he hold the business back?
Right.
Yeah.
How much is wrestling like something that's not talked about now because of things that he specifically has implemented? You know, when it took off in the late 90s, that was largely due to outside influence from people.
Yeah.
Where he finally was like, maybe I don't have all the answers. Maybe a wrestling clown isn't the answer. And then stuff actually took off. You remember his ideas for Steve Austin. You remember his ideas for The Rock.
Ringmaster. Yeah. Rocky Maivia.
Yeah.
Ice McGee or something
brilliant.
like that.
Brilliant contributions to the business. The ringmaster, Gully Blanchard. Yeah, that's a brilliant contribution. It's a good fucking thing he got out of his own way so that we got Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock, which is probably why you're sitting here right now. So think of how many things that we didn't get because Vince was too stupid to get out of his own way, and we just give him credit because, oh well, it's pretty big, I guess. You know, it wouldn't be, you know, it wouldn't be blacklisted from Hollywood and having people like trying to get, hey, Dwayne, you don't need to go back there. You know, you've got a bunch of other movies to make for Disney now. You don't need to go back and deal with them. Hey, John Cena, you know, maybe your wrestling's done. Maybe we got the few roles for you over here, stuff like that. Batista, you don't want to deal with them anymore. You want to be serious about your acting career. You know, that's how the entertainment business looks at pro wrestling. And a large part is because Vince McMahon made it like a joke in a circus.
Yeah.
You know,
he
made it bigger, but then it did not evolve and it regressed.
Right.
So you also have to blame him for that. It could have been even bigger than it ever was, but it's not.
Yeah. Here's the question I've got for you, just as you kind of touched on that, was, do we even get Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels if the steroid scandal didn't happen? Like you think about maybe not. Like that, and that's such a big part of the evolution of WWE. When we look back on it, was Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, their feud through they practically carried this well, I say the golden era, but they sort of transition between the golden era and the Attitude Era. They were the middle point. Like they were what was great about it. Like, does that even happen without steroid scandal? Do we probably get Diesel for a long ass time? No, not saying Kevin Nash has done steroids, but quads and all, but
Gully Blanchard continues to go on with like talking about business wise, contributing and stuff like that. It's like I'm not denying. I'm not talking about creative necessarily.
Yeah,
and it was his business decisions that halt. Let's just talk about letting these business decisions recently, such as the ones that had to do with the action figures and the video games and stuff like that. Yeah. Like the things that he decides in business or that people decide for him, those hurt the business as well. All of this is the growth. I'm not talking about fucking writing storylines. I'm talking about how wrestling was not able to break even more into the mainstream other than for a couple of good hot years in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Like that is business. That's 100% business.
I mean, if like wrestling was as good as it was, as good as we believe it to be, would you think we're only tipping 1 million viewers nowadays? Like, would it not be the other way around? If it was as big and as successful and creatively flush as it was, then we'd be in the numbers we were back in the 90s. Like, as you say, like the mid-90s, we'd be riding a high right now, but it's just not. And there's also a lot of mitigating factors in that. You know, a lot of the outside, we know more about how things are, but yeah, Vince didn't help himself through this at all. It's very...
Tony Khan has money. How come their show is bad? Well, you got two guys with money that don't know shit. That's
right.
Why. It's not it doesn't have to be a either or thing. It's not about like, oh, well, AEW is bad, so Vince is good. Like, no. It's not. They can both be bad. That's not the point. We're not talking about AEW. But you made the point of he hired the people to write the shows and execute on TV. Well, Gully, so could you have. You could have done it. Yeah. Anybody could just hire people and say, do this. That's what I'm saying. That's why he doesn't get the credit.
When you have a job, you do what your boss tells you to do. That's what's happened. Is like Vince told the creative team, his wrestlers, what he wanted and what's happening on this show. And we kind of touched on it earlier on when we were talking about how he rips up scripts and changes the show. That's his role. He tells you what to do. You're not going to tell Vince McMahon to fuck off. I'm doing my own thing. You're going to do what you're told.
Unless you're Stephanie now.
Unless you're Stephanie now.
Yeah.
Good time to be her. But yeah, like you would never kind of go against that. There's very few talents on the roster that are in a position where they could say that. Gullivan saying companies succeeding in spite of the shitty show. Is it succeeding? Like
really.
that's my point. It's like not really
without TV rights fees, and Saudi Arabia bought shows that would be moving the water coolers out of the building again.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest. You can't look at the stock prices as a sign of success because they're overinflated with those things you just talked about. You mean the toy lines aren't producing money, the TV shows aren't producing money. They're continually in the hole with their ass saved by Saudi Arabia and paid shows.
And the thing to bear in mind as well is like a lot of what WWE done for the past 10, 12 years is they've structured it towards kids. It's a kid-friendly show. So, because of course, kids are going to gravitate to the big lights, big characters, big names, toys, as you say, and things like that. So it's easy. That's easy stuff. But like, I suppose Kelly Grant should make a point. Like no, that's not what it was. Where was it?
About the
yeah, that several companies came and went that couldn't survive, but then that's down to management. That's down to, again, this industry is not the easiest industry to get into. AEW succeeded off the back of a lot of financial backing, big names that jumped ship from New Japan and Ring of Honor, and they made a big song and dance. Chris Jericho, like, we don't talk enough about Chris Jericho moving to AEW, and he was an ex-WWE guy, and they hired, like, this criticism of ex-WWE talents going to AEW. Like, that's a big part of how that's surviving and how it's doing well. It's like they've got the financial backing, they've got the production team. Some of these companies that do that, they don't. To be blunt about it, is they don't have this financial backing. They don't have the kind of talents that move over that you'd want to see in a thriving, successful company. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of things to make it work. AEW could have easily failed in the first year. It was a gamble, but it pulled off because there was a lot of interest in the talents that people followed from New Japan, Ring of Honor, being the elite and things like that. They watched, and then some people worked, some didn't. Then the releases happened. They jumped on that, took advantage, and those releases came over AEW. So a lot of things went in their favor. That can't happen for a lot of companies. It's very hard. Like GCW, in my opinion, are doing okay, but at a moment's notice that they might not do okay.
MLW.
And MLW as well. Like they've went down, up, down, up, down. TNA, like they went from a very dodgy period before they are where they are now. Like they had to change things up. It's very hard to sustain yourself as a wrestling company. It's not. I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's nigh on impossible. There's a lot of things you've got to navigate. There's choppy waters,
a lot of that is because of the empire that Vince built. So yes,
exactly.
I mean, there is a. I'm not saying he deserves no credit whatsoever, but just don't give too much credit.
Right.
You know?
You have to temper. What you're saying essentially is you have to temper the credit that we need to give to Vince for what's been done.
In the 80s, he filled a very specific thing. He was like, okay, here's wrestling. Wrestling exists. I have it. I can buy it. And I can do something that they're not doing. I can make it, I can market it a certain way. I can turn it into a cartoon. I can make ice cream bars, sell this merch, That is the visionary idea. And it worked very well at that time. And then it kind of started to peter out again, like it wasn't going to sustain. We were already talking about the end of the company after less than 10 years. And then, with the whole, with the trial and everything.
Yeah.
Like he had been about 10 years and we were getting ready to say goodbye to the WWF. And then,
and survived.
Yeah, it limped along for a little while, and then
we
had to have 92 to 96. We had to get through that.
Well, you had in the 90s, and from 92 to 94, you had on your roster Duke the Dumpster Drozy, who was a garbage man. You still had Big Boss Man, who was a police. You still had the I have a regular job, but I'm coming to wrestling on the weekend kind of bullshit going on. That was big in the 80s, but those things were still going on. And I mean, you look at where those things were different. You look at what was JCP's NWA / WCW. They were more about realism, in that time. Yeah. But even in those, JCP did not have. People were like, well, they failed. Well, Vince squeezed them out. They didn't have the capital to continue to compete with, that's why JCP had to sell to WCW to Ted Turner, who was a billionaire. And then in turn, WCW failed because their poor financial decisions. And it wasn't because really at the end, it was because AOL did not want that as part of their broadcasting. Yeah. So they said, this is going away. We're not doing this anymore. And this is why it failed. I mean, was it shitty in the 2000s? It was very shitty in the 2000s. But it doesn't change the fact you were on a major network and that the people who bought that network said, we don't want this as a part of our broadcasting anymore. And that's why it wasn't because Vince beat them or whatever. It was because AOL said, this is not part of our branding. This is not what we want anymore. And so off he goes. I mean, Vince is best known for killing promotions. He killed the territories and killed all these things to garner his empire, quote unquote. And then in turn was like the emperor with the new clothes and saying everything's great when shit's on fire behind him and he's wearing nothing. That's the real thing that we have to look at here. He did some good things, but guys, tap the brakes on everything else. He's not there where we want to put him. I think he's a king of, he made some good decisions. He muscled everybody out. He got wrestling where, it became a mainstay to where to this day, when you talk pro wrestling, people say, oh, is that the WWE? I mean, that or WWF. He made it a Kleenex type thing where when people hear the name wrestling, they think of WWE. He did that. There's no denying that has been the case. But at what cost of the whole industry did that create? I mean, you have to really think about it. When was WWE, WWF the best? When WCW was kicking, and you had the Monday Night Wars. That's when it was its absolute 100% best. Anytime they had to compete against somebody, that was where they shined.
Elizabeth taking the words right out of my mouth and said Vince played wrestling like a Monopoly game. He had the Monopoly in wrestling. Some great comments, by the way, guys. I'm genuine. I'm glued to this chat, by the way. Gully Blanchard. I'm not going to make this a Gully Blanchard show, but again, he's making some interesting comments and things that we can bounce off a little bit. He said, like, it takes a lot of things, intangible things that Vince has that others don't. Can't say it's money. There has to be a brain. Sorry, finish the comment. There's a brainchild behind it. He's done a lot of bad, but the good with it is why the company is still around. To bring the other one. Everyone has a brainchild. That's the thing, though. It's you can say he has a brainchild, and I'm not saying he hasn't succeeded. What we're saying is there's a lot of things that have happened, and he played the game quite a bit. Like pro wrestling, let's be fair to Vince, pro wrestling isn't what it is without him, because he had to go to a court in New York and made the case that wrestling is not a sport. He had to pull the curtain back in a courtroom so he didn't have to pay as much when he wanted to wrestle in New York. And that opened the door greater. He's got ruthlessness in terms of taking on the territories. Like when he took over WWE and his dad said, like, I'll give you this, but I don't want you to take on the territories. He said, no, I won't, Dad. And then within months, he's starting to claim companies and soak them up. And then he literally was on WCW, technically, way back when, and started selling WWF. This is the kind of man he is. Like, we can't deny that he's done these things, but what we're saying is it's not just him. Like, his successes in the mainstream, say, I mean, you've got Hulk Hogan was a big part of that. Like you got a man in Hulk Hogan, yet you promoted him well. But then you had the rock and wrestling thing. WWE needed MTV at the time. They needed Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T, and all these things to come in and put a spotlight on these things. If they say no, WrestleMania isn't what WrestleMania is now. It's these little things. We can never account for these. So to say it's all Vince is wrong. We can appreciate that obviously he's the promoter. That's his job. He's got to make the phone calls. He's got to get them in. But as Vet said, you've got to look at the Hogans, for better or worse. Ultimate Warriors, Macho Man, Stone Cold, The Rock, and John Cena's and things like that. They were pillars. They were people that had more than the wrestling business about them. And I think that's something that doesn't get said enough, is that they have more than the wrestling business. They could go out there and do their own thing, but they're here and they're good at it. Of course, you got to cultivate them. Of course, you got to get them out there. But they have the tools where they can bring in that people, and when people gravitate to that and they take advantage of that, they will succeed on their own. So WWE have succeeded on the back of a lot of people, and part of them they've made themselves, yes and no, but it's not all on Vince's turf. It can't be. You can't put it all on him. What else have we got here? Oh my God, there's so much. Jesus, chat, you're so strong. We've not even got to the Brock Lesnar stuff yet. What the hell?
Hey, good reporting on that, guys. I mean, once again, it goes back to
I'm
wrestling.
saying it right now. I'm calling that
journalism
out.
Is bullshit.
Nah, I'm calling that out right now. Shit changes. Like, last I heard, it was like a 15-minute thing. It was like literally, right, we've got him. Like, no one said he couldn't come back. Everyone said they were trying to get him back. So no one had put this thing where it's like he's gone.
Well, no, that's what they said. Like, they said he walked out and said, "I'm done." And they
but they hedged their bets. No, what I'm saying is, no, they tried to get him back, but they hedged their bets. Like they were trying to get Goldberg on the phone. They were trying to get Lesnar on the phone. They were hedging their bets. Like if Lesnar doesn't come back, they're trying to get Goldberg in. If Lesnar comes back, cool, we can get through 2 weeks of wrestling. I'm not buying this. Like. I'm not buying this whole thing that they were worked. Like the logistics of that to make it happen alone, to put on a day that Vince retired, it'd be nonsensical. You don't need that. You literally don't need this work. If it was a work, you don't need it. Vince retired. What the fuck happens on SmackDown tonight with Vince retiring? Does he come out? Does he not? Like, they announced Stephanie McMahon was opening the show, for fuck's sake. Like, why would they go out of their way to make this a work?
They wouldn't.
And that's they couldn't.
They wouldn't and didn't.
They wouldn't and they didn't. Because I'm telling you now, the person, I've said it to someone else, the person that got, I'm sure I said it to you before the show, John, actually, the person that got Brock Lesnar, an angry Brock Lesnar, to turn around and appear on SmackDown last night needs a pay rise. Because I tell you now, there was a lot of talking and a lot of like, come on, man, like we need you to do this. Come on, like,
why would they have to talk Brock Lesnar into continuing to work towards money, getting his big payday?
Right.
Yeah.
But what else is he going to do?
Yeah, but that's my case. Is that he's not just. This isn't a work though. Like I can understand heat of the moment. Obviously, his relationship with Vince McMahon, and he's walked away, and it's like maybe, and it's cooler heads prevailed. I just can't get on board with this whole it's a work. They've beat the, maybe, but I just can't get on board in this being a work. I genuinely can't. For the whole, like, every single outlet had the same story. There's no way not, like, I get it if one of them had it and no one else is talking about it and it was wrong, but when every single one were like, he's gone, he's out, they're on the phone to him, they're on the phone to Goldberg. If Brock Lesnar's back, cool. If he's not, we're getting Goldberg in. Like,
but here's my problem.
They hedged their bets.
The wrestling journalism community is not journalism. They put stuff out. They don't follow their sources. They don't do these things. Shit like this happens all the time. And so therefore, I can't read anything and go, I can believe this with 100% certainty, because always you're hearing from a stooge backstage. So, and you're not telling your sources, you're following with one source. You have to have two minimum.
But there's like 5 at least.
And they copy off of each other. That's the other problem, James, is one person takes a story from another person and just rewrites the same story. They don't follow through. It's so Sean Ross Sapp says something, then everybody else follows suit. That's why it's all similar. That's why they all have the same story, because they're not doing the work.
But that's the thing. There's a difference between like people who have genuine sources in there and then people who just feed off like say Son Rassap, for example. Like, you'd imagine he's more likely to get sources than someone who reports from Fightful Select. Like, they'll go on the Patreon, pay the money and say, right, we'll report from that. Like, it's Chinese whispers. Like, they'll take things from that aren't exactly what's been said, but then he'll do the same, whoever is sourcing. And so it's Chinese whispers. But what I'm saying is like, even like WrestleVotes, Alvarez, Sapp, like a lot of them, like, there's no way that a numerous amount of talent like of not talent, but a numerous amount of reporters who have direct links to sources in there can all be wrong.
Those are all
can't
three,
be.
but those are all
That's
three
just
sources
no. That's
again
just
that
three.
have been wrong plenty of times.
But they weren't. Everyone said the same thing. They all tried to get Lesnar back. Like no one said he was gone. They were trying to get him back. Like no one said he was like. No one said there was no chance of him coming back. And I'm not trying to defend everyone and things like that. But what I'm saying is we've got to kind of take it all with a pinch of salt. Where it's like you can't just like. I'll say this to Willie Malice here. He probably watches this. He probably doesn't, but whatever. Like he's putting it aside. Like the dirt sheet's got it wrong again. It's like who the fuck knows if they got it right or wrong? Because this was an ever-changing situation. Like it's perfectly feasible that Brock's fucked off, and someone's had to get on his ear. Heyman could have got in his ear and like, look, man, you've got this week and next, and get it out of the way. Don't just blow it all away for the sake of this. Like it's fine. Don't worry about it. The world's not going to end. I totally appreciate what's going on. Just come back. We'll get you in for 10 minutes. I mean, like the fact that this show itself was structured in such a way that because originally Brock Lesnar was supposed to be all over the show as far as we're aware. And then he came off and then he comes in like 10 minutes and just F5's Austin Theory. Great. Pop. Things happen. Why though? Like there's no Roman Reigns build. There's no promo. There's no build up to SummerSlam. There was hardly any chat about SummerSlam for next week, apart from Theory saying he's going to cash in on one of them. Like, no one knew that. Like, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee encapsulated that. It's like, what? Like, not even apart from what you could get from their performances, unless they're great, is no one really knew. Like, it's unpredictable.
But that's the thing. Brock is about money. And
exactly.
What does it do for him to walk out at this point and leave money on the table? Like that's the whole thing. It's just Brock doesn't do this, and then the way this, like you said, the way this sort of structured, this is a better way to use Brock to get him ready for SummerSlam because Austin Theory is doing this whole "I'm gonna cash in on you, I'm gonna cash in on you." He's being that annoying little shit brother that you just want to beat the fuck out of, and that's what Brock Lesnar did. He walked in and says, "You think you're going to do this? Fine. I'm going to show you what I do, and I beat the shit out of you." And that's all you need. You don't need Brock Lesnar all over the show. You need him to walk in, whip ass, walk out. And that's all you have to do. Now, could it have been that they changed the show and he was upset about it? Maybe, but the way they used him was great. It was perfect on how I would use him to build to SummerSlam, especially you're keeping him away from Roman because you have this third party with Austin Theory. And then on top of that, he's not walking away from a paycheck. If he's pissed about Vince retiring and walking out, he's leaving a shit ton of money, which Brock Lesnar would never do. Like, that's my problem with all these stories. It doesn't make any sense. And so
Brock walked away for 2 years. He fucked off. He doesn't need the money.
What bearing on Vince McMahon's retirement status would Brock Lesnar care about? Like, why would he?
Right. Exactly.
Why would that matter to him at all? The guy he threw the belt at backstage, like, I'm so angry that Vince is retired. I'm leaving forever. Whatever.
Yeah.
True.
Why is this even a conversation?
Yeah. And if Vince McMahon goes, who's paying? Who's gonna feasibly? Like Nick Khan's gonna look at that book and go, look at Brock Lesnar. You're making a shitload of money off of this, and we're only getting you in 4 times a year. This is our return. Where it's diminishing. Like we've got, like, let's be fair to him. Like,
here's your cowboy hat. Get out there.
But that's it. It's like, how long do we do this whole schedule of Brock Lesnar appearing a few times a year, and it stops working? You know what I mean? Like, someone's got to see the forest for the trees here. Nick Khan's going to look at that and go, "Sorry, mate, I'm not paying $1 million per appearance. I'm not paying this much for you to come on just for 10 minutes of TV time and then a 10-minute match at a pay-per-view." Like that financially, I mean, you're trying to sell or you're trying to keep talent on your books. Like we sacked so many talents last year in the past couple of years because of the pandemic, where a Brock Lesnar could be financially more feasible. Like we can survive without him, get rid and keep more people on, or, you know, build off and sell. Like
you're forgetting a very important thing here, James. More important than any of that stuff that you said, which I understood, by the way. I understood all of it. What is Natalya going to do if Brock isn't there to give her feedback on her matches?
Right.
Oh no.
Like that's what we really need to look at as the ROI for Brock Lesnar is, getting those underneath talent to really improve. And that's what he's really there for. It's not about selling pay-per-views. It's just about giving Natty feedback on her match. So I think we should all keep that in mind going forward.
Because he's a locker room leader and such an inspiration to everybody in match structure and everything along those lines.
But I can, because as I say, I appreciate that sometimes the pros outweigh the cons, but we've got a WrestleMania rematch of a Saudi Arabia rematch of a match that happened at a WrestleMania prior to that. And like, how long are we getting Lesnar and Roman Reigns, and then Lesnar goes, and then who the fuck steps up to Lesnar next? Like Bobby Lashley, but we got that in the Rumble.
It's gonna be your boy Drew McIntyre because he's winning to be at the Clash.
No, because he finished that off at WrestleMania, one clean. Like, don't have to do that again. Like, if I'm WB, I'm like, cool, Brock, go to UFC, get
that ain't
money. It won't happen. But what I'm saying is, like, if you're Nick Khan, you're trying to sell, you're trying to make sure everything's tight in a bubble. You're not paying out with your means. You've got a sustainable talent pool, and things are working. Brock Lesnar doesn't fit in with that.
But who's your star if you don't have a guy like Brock Lesnar?
Roman Reigns. You've got Reigns right there. Like, you can build everyone. Yeah, that's where you start, though. You start with Reigns and you work your way down. You look at the Drew McIntyres, bring Randy Orton in, build up a Matt Riddle. I don't know. Gunther's doing all right, I suppose. Like, you start building off the back of that.
That's tying it all back into the whole reason that we're talking about this is now that you have the old man out of the way, we can start getting some stars in there.
Right. We don't have
we got a bunch of ringmasters and Rocky Maivias right now.
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to say. That's where the growth of the business is hurt. Now with that out of the way, maybe we could try. I'm not saying we're going to get them. We may not have another Austin or Rock right now, but we certainly got a lot of ringmasters and Rocky Maivias.
Right.
So we got to see what we can get out of them. That's how this whole thing has always been done.
Right. And that was the whole point of the 2000s, the 99s, and the 2000s.
Sorry, I have to come right back. Be aware.
All right, there you go. And then, like, I agree with you, but that was the whole point of 97 to 2000 is look at how many people were at the top. You had your Stone Colds, you had your Rockies, you had your Undertakers, you had everybody like vying for this top spot and doing these things, and it just made the business better because there were so many people. Then you could bring back in your Hulk Hogan's every now and then to get a cheap pop. You could bring in somebody back in who was still viable. That was a long-term thing. I mean, hell, they built Mankind to be the champ and the pop that he got. I mean, there were all kinds of things that were done that were built and created, but then now these people get opportunities to go to Hollywood or do things that's not WWE creative that they can't control, and then Vince realizes, well, we can't have that again. I mean, hell, Triple H was one of those guys who was vying for the top spot all the time, and it made for really good TV, and that's the whole thing I think that we're missing out on and we're forgetting is that, and at that time, Vince was a character. Vince was involved with all this on screen. And so you have to wonder how much he was involved creatively because he's having to be on screen. And now that he's gone, we have that opportunity to move forward, to like you said, build these guys. But you keep Brock for that very special reason. He's the new Hulk Hogan of every now and then, as you build somebody up, Brock can step in and you get that pop from Brock, that nostalgia pop as we're building these guys up. And that's the whole purpose is you keep Brock in this kind of Hulk Hogan, cheap pop role as you build these other guys up because Brock is marketable. Brock is, you put him on a poster, you put him on something, people pay attention, and he draws money until you bring up the rest of your roster to where you can lessen his appearance more like they've done with Hulk Hogan. That's the whole purpose.
I don't know. Jimmy, I think you're trying to say they're like, Brock, that was the old pricing plan. I think we want to put you under a new pricing plan. We'll still get you plenty of money and you won't starve on the farm in the Yukon with Sable and everything, but you're going to have to take a little less than you're used to because we're not going to need you as much.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say just to that point, Jordan, was that how long before he's making more money than they're bringing in? I'm not saying they're not going to bring in more money than what they're paying Brock, but what I'm saying is like, how long is this last where his fees aren't going to balance out from how much they're bringing in? It's great when they're making great pay-per-view buys. It's great when they're making a lot of money. But then when that isn't making as much money as they're hoping, Brock Lesnar's making more money. That's cutting right off those profits. Like those.
Well, then you don't bring him in.
Off the back
you don't bring him in until it makes
that's
sense.
My point.
Like
that's exactly
they did with
my
Hogan.
point.
Like they that's what they did with Hogan. The more Hogan cost, the less they used him until they like really needed him. And that's what I'm saying.
But that's where they cut him in 92, 93. It was partly the Cyrus scandal, but then like he wasn't making as much money as he could have done. It's like times change. Like you gotta roll the dice, and now we're at a time when we have to. Like Brock Lesnar's making crazy money on them being at a SummerSlam when we're watching a match. Like when you've seen Brock Lesnar have the same match, even when you're a casual fan, about 6 times in the past like 3-4 years, how much interest in there? Especially when you watch that WrestleMania match. It's like, does anyone believe Brock?
That doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is if they want to see him or not. Because once he's in there and the bell rings, they don't care what he does. They don't know the difference.
Right.
Like they're not, the casual fan, as you say, does not sit there and say, I don't like Brock Lesnar's match because he just does the same thing all the time. They're just like, hey, it's Brock Lesnar. I like him.
You're right.
No, because I mean, that's how they think. It's the same match. That's my issue. Is like it's the same thing. It's Roman Reigns all the time.
It goes back to the fact of who else? It's SummerSlam. It's one of your tentpole events outside of WrestleMania. Who else have you built up to face Roman Reigns? Nobody. And so you have to bring back Brock for that reason, because nobody has been elevated to the level of being able to compete with Roman Reigns. You know,
but could this not be the perfect time now to change that? Like,
well, no, and that's what we're saying. That's what we're saying. But we're not there. That's why you have to keep Brock for a year or two with these scheduled dates or whatever, so you can build up the rest of your roster and have him there as a trump card when you need. That's what I'm trying to explain. It's you've slowly faded him out because, yes, he gets more and more. That's what happened with Hogan when they brought him back. He would show up and, he wrestled with the Edge and he won the award, but they were, they won the titles for a little while and he did these things. But as Hogan got later down the range, granted he got older too, but you got to know his money wasn't what he could draw. So he phased himself out of the business. Brock's going to do the same thing because he's going to get older. He's going to get, whatever. And we're not going to need him because hopefully now we'll have built the roster to be that 97 to 2000 level of we have Stone Cold, we have The Rock, we have Triple H, we have Undertaker, we have Mankind. We have all these people who are vying for the top, which was great because we've built them now to where they can be instead of having one person and everybody else is shit. And then we have to bring in Brock Lesnar. I'm not arguing with you that Brock Lesnar is not like a guy that we don't need to be building a franchise on, but there's nobody else. That's the problem. Is there's nothing. It's SummerSlam. Yeah. It's supposed to be a big event, and the best we can do is WrestleMania, bringing back Locke because there's nobody else.
Well, that's kind of why, I was kind of sticking my guns a bit. Like, someone's really pulled the arse out of it to try and keep Brock there because Brock's gone for SummerSlam. Then you're right. What the fuck happens to SummerSlam? Who's buying that? Who's watching that? But long term, that's kind of where I'm looking at. Is long term, we can't have Brock here all the time. And that's possibly, and this is my case why I'm more inclined to believe this Brock walkout thing is even he sees it. Like long term, he's not going to have Vince that's going to be like, cool, I'll pay you whatever. Cool, brilliant, fantastic. You've got someone who's going to kick the tires more. And Nick Khan, who's going to be like, great. And you said it yourself. I was like, oh, well, we're going to have to restructure that because we only got you in for so long. We want to kind of make a little bit more money. Look, the viewership's down. Well, I don't say the viewership's down, but look, the viewership for Raw's down. Smackdown's not doing.
But what do you do when Brock goes, but when I'm on, this is what the numbers do?
Tough. Well, yeah, but that's exactly it. It's like you got.
What do the numbers do when he's on?
Who knows? I mean, that's what, I don't know. I don't look at the numbers.
They know.
They're not stratospheric. It's not like massive. It's like you're not going from 1 million to 2 million.
And the thing about Brock recently is that he has been around more often, and it does get you used to seeing him, and he is less of an attraction, and therefore less useful. And again, the return on investment is not as high. So look, bottom line is this: they don't need him. There's gonna be a period, even if he dropped out of SummerSlam and whatever they did in the in its place, whatever. I'm sure SummerSlam is not going to make $1 more or less because Brock Lesnar is there. If it's that short of a turnaround. But in the meantime, as soon as SummerSlam's done and you figure out what you want to do with him, in the meantime, you do have guys you that can buy you time until you've built up the other requisite stars. Drew McIntyre's ready to go. He can have a program with Roman. They never really had like a major program that to any serious degree or length of time. I don't love Drew McIntyre, but it doesn't matter. He's the right choice for that. And then, sorry, Jim. I like you more than Drew McIntyre. But that's fine. And then after that, you got Bobby Lashley. He can with the snap of a finger, he can be rehabilitated and put in position to challenge and threaten Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. Again, never had a meaningful program whatsoever with those two men, and that can carry you all the way through to the end of the year with just that, if you do it right, which they can. And then while that's happening, now you start bringing up the undercard to the place where you need them to be.
Right.
And start getting ready to have some guys that are going to be a monkey wrench. And maybe even decide who's going to succeed Roman Reigns as that guy. Who's going to eventually knock Roman Reigns off the perch. You figure out who that's going to be, if it's going to be Theory, which it probably won't, or whoever. But you can start... This is the kind of layered planning that you can start doing now that, again, certain people are out of the way. And their proclivities change depending on the weather. You got people that are more business oriented or more used to this and doing things the way they were traditionally done. And then solves the Brock Lesnar problem.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine a Braun Breaker doing what Brock does right now? It's feasible and he costs less money. And if he does as well as we hope he does, then ready-made, oven-baked. You got a signer in there that can do whatever you want him to do, and it'd be great.
But you can't call him Brock
Breaker.
Breaker.
In now. No. If you bring him up now, because he's not going to do anything more in NXT except get hurt. Right. So if you bring him up now, then by the time that you go through, like a Roman Reigns could go through a McIntyre program and a Lashley program, like I laid out, you could have Braun Jr. reasonably.
He could be the guy
ready to even make people think, oh, well, maybe he's the guy. If you do that right or whatever.
Yeah.
And then
putting a secondary title on him, to build that up a little bit and then go from there. You could do that,
or if it was me personally, this is just me personally, and I would go for a shock the world moment and a doesn't make sense at the moment and just put Walter in that spot.
Yeah.
Because why wouldn't a guy like him want to be the champion?
Right.
Yeah.
Why would he be content being the Intercontinental Champion?
Oh, fucking hell. Could you imagine? Oh.
So you put that in a thing where it's like, okay, now who the people are going to get behind? Because, he can carry off all the main event stuff. So you could have a good heel program there and get people talking. And if he beats Roman, people will be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna make Roman wear the chest protector again.
Yeah,
exactly.
You could make a scary heel out of Walter beating Roman Reigns as well. It's like, oh fuck! Like you see how he is on TV right now, and how he is against with Kaiser. It's like, well, with Kaiser, he's his partner. It's like, whoa, that's you got to pay attention to Walter now if he beats Roman Reigns, and. Imagine him being top heel for a few months. I'm there for it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, just like last night, God, that was one of the best bits. Oh, no, everything's good. Kaiser, everything's good. Oh, God.
It's so far.
Dude, I laughed my ass off so hard. I was like, holy shit, that was great.
Unbelievable.
But, other than the name, they haven't ruined him yet, so that's...
Yeah,
that's good.
Insanity as well. The fact that that's the only thing.
And while we're on the subject now, since he's in America and getting a big push and everything, can we get Ginny over here too now? Can we just?
Yes.
Can we please? The women need something. I think a fashionista would do just the trick.
Yeah.
She could have done well with. Could have done well with MMM.
Well, yeah.
Maximum male models.
We had Maxine Dupree made her debut last night.
Liked it, digged it.
Don't know who she is, but I mean,
Something Coleman. What her name is?
I don't know.
Sophia Cromwell.
Sophia Cromwell. That's it.
She's been telling weird people what to do in NXT for a while now. She just showed up out of nowhere one day.
Some people,
hot and then...
some people complained that she came up and did the promo on her own, but I'm like, no, I'm quite looking forward to next week when Max Dupree is there as well, and they're like a power couple for a while. It's like, I'll watch that. They're like,
no, he should just show up as LA Knight and pretend none of this ever happened.
Yeah, or Eli Drake, and none of that happened.
Yeah, well, they're already
this.
doing
How
this.
dare you?
They're already doing the stupid, Elias and Ezekiel thing. So if he just showed up without the glasses and be like, I don't know what you're talking about. He has slightly different haircut, no glasses. And be like, hey, weren't you the model guy? And then be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I'm bought in. I've kind of bought into it now. I'm kind of like, I'd like to see them as a couple of the helms of this, as a neck couple. And
boo.
No,
boo this man. Everybody boo this man in the chat right now.
Yeah, I love Vince's idea. He walks in and he's like, all right, hey, it's Max Dupree. No, it's
who the fuck are you talking about?
Eli Drake. Like he does that bit to start it off, and oh my god, not here.
You could do both. You could do the MMM as Eli Drake. Come on,
no.
He's done so well with it though. Like he's carried this shit.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, come on! You're trying to tell me that Mansoor doing duck face while on stage that's the thing?
I say this all belongs in the trash.
Yeah.
And there's a trash pile on top of him now because of this, and he can't dig his way out of it. There's no way he can make this palatable. So
I'm in the minority here.
Yes.
I'll accept that.
Not even the vocal minority. You deserve to be buried under a pile of trash for being in this minority.
I'm genuinely saying here, I said it last week, I'm waiting for the guy who's going to be the one that fucks this whole thing up. And here we go. Storyline. Off we go. I'm waiting for it. It might be a while now, considering that they brought in Maxine Dupree. But I'm holding out hope. Maybe Sami Zayn turns babyface and fucks this shit up. Who knows?
Wait, did the casual audience understand Eli Drake, though? He's literally just a rockin' awesome knockoff and not a good one. Well, I mean, he's a good knockoff. But then by that logic, then hell yes, the casual audience would understand him.
Right. They would totally get that character.
If that worked back then, it might work now. I'm not saying he could get to that level, but I mean, come on, it's reading weird homoerotic scripts written by, again, Vince McMahon. Because if you know what you're listening to, you know that those MMM things or I guess that should be called. Those things were all 100% handwritten by Vince, and he was forced to read it. Yeah, I think he'd do a little better than that at least.
But imagine what could be now. It could be wild. We could get Met Gala shit next week. Who knows?
Well, James.
I know.
Weren't we just talking about cutting the budget and return on investment?
Yeah.
Now, what the hell are you going to turn this modeling agency? Okay, your modeling agency. Why is that in the middle of a wrestling show that's supposed to be a sport?
That's a heel.
What are they doing? Are they going to have? Oh, they're going to have a match. Oh, so they're going to have a match. So they're just wrestlers. Okay, so then we're going to drop all the fashion show stuff and they're just going to have matches. Okay,
they're
so
wrestlers with jobs.
That's the thing. It's like I've sold this for weeks. It's like the New Day could be the ones that ruin this, and then you've got a brilliant feud between the New Day and MMM, and you can set up a nice heel tag team, much like Pretty Deadly should have been in this position. And just go for the tag titles and have like a really annoying pissant tag team like this. These like Eminem were back in the early 2000s. It's like this whole like model fashionista thing. Like I'm better than you. I look better than you. And this, it's like easy to boo, easy to dislike. And then you have them wrestling great. If you have them winning championships and then being over the top of like the Street Profits and Chad and oh my god, I'm like Chad and Otis, the Usos, fucking New Day, Shanky and all that. It's like these, like you can have a dislikable team at the top and then have that babyface team rise up and beat them, and it's great. Like I'm not saying they're brilliant, but what I'm saying is there's potential there where you can build a heel tag team. I get the Usos are the top of the tree now, but that's kind of an attachment to Roman Reigns. That's kind of a consequence of his storyline, and it builds and it works really well. Whereas once they're out the way, who's the next big bad? That's what makes a good TV show. Is like you get through this big bad. Who's the next one? How are they going to overcome this? And I can see that in MMM. And some people will disagree, and some people say I'm wrong, and I get it. Yeah. I respect it. But for me, it's like I can glad.
John, can you cut this man's mic in any way? Do you have the ability
yes,
to...
I can. Watch.
No.
Yeah. Yay.
How dare you? How dare you?
We gotta put you on a timeout there, Jimbo. Yeah, we're not gonna have any of that. Well,
I know I'm 3 whiskeys in, but come on.
Oh yeah, you could. That's all right. We know you like them sober too. Yeah. Well, we're 2 hours in, and we haven't really talked about the show very much. So
says a lot about the show, though.
Yeah, it does. There's really nothing to say.
No.
And if there is, you can just go to one of those sites and just read the results real quick rather than get it from us.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, the only things that are of any importance of this show were the opening with Stephanie saying "Thank you, Vince," and the ending with Brock coming out and being the shit house.
I put it in this description as well. It was like the most vanilla show and inoffensive show possible. Yeah. Although McIvor and Corbin I thought was okay. You know, quite a good wee segment. Corbin jumped McIvor, then it went backstage, and then McIvor cut a great promo. It was like, I'm going to kick your head in, and then you're not going to get up from it or something like that. And
also,
away.
I don't remember, but was there any matches where a guy came out and then they went to commercial and then they did a promo and then they did a vignette and then they did another promo and then they went to commercial and then the second guy came out?
Oh my God, you're talking about like half the show there.
Yeah.
Usually.
Did they do it again, or was that not on?
They did it at with the Usos right before the main event, because they had the Usos come out, they went to commercial, then Maxine, that's when the Maximum Models things happened, and then they went back to the ring to like do the intro for like Austin Theory and everybody else. So that kind of happened. I think that was the only time it happened in the show.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, can we quickly touch on the Rousey and Liv Morgan promo? Whoa. It's like, you are the champion, but I will beat you because I love this company more. No, I will beat you because I love this company more. And if you thought I was being jokey with that intonation, no, I wasn't. Like, watch that promo. It was like, you did okay. You won the champion. You did what you had to do. But I will be champion because I will beat you. I appreciate that you think I will beat you, but I will beat you because I want this more. No, I want this more. Promo.
Yeah. And Lacey Evans is the biggest baby face on the show because Aaliyah still has not wrestled. Yeah,
that's a load of bollocks. That's a waste of my time. I watched that thing as well. I was like, why the fuck am I watching this? This is literally beat for the past 2 weeks. I was like, no.
I mean, again, they've announced that Aaliyah is so bad that she's supposed to be making her way back to NXT. So therefore, we have not had her wrestle in 3 weeks.
Aaliyah, by the way, is a mug and a half. I'm sitting there watching Lacey Evans do the exact same thing she did 2 weeks before, and she's not got the wherewithal to just hit her.
I know,
just jump her or something? No, just tap her on the shoulder. Like, I don't like what you said. Women's right. Fuck off. I'm gone. Like, what?
Yes. So, Media M5, yes. Lacey Evans' music does sound like Star Wars. It is exactly. It's very
America, but she's not America enough to get cheers. No. Which, again, we touched on last week, where it's like, I'm not appreciating the lack of response. It's like, you got a lack of response because you were on like 2 seconds of TV after 3 weeks, 3, 4, 5 weeks of promos that we didn't do on. I mean, I get it. It's not your fault, but at the same time,
the promos, like the promos leading up to it, were great, and then you get into the match, and you have a promo in and it's awful. And I mean, oh my God! And she was great up until the pay-per-view, and then after the pay-per-view, it's fucking shit.
Canada Spaceman, I will not have this disrespect to the Wednesday locker room. I ain't having that. Now the turn was today. Smack Attack becomes the old Wednesday locker room. Eventually stop talking about wrestling. They disappear like tumbleweeds blowing away. We spent 2 hours and 7 minutes talking about nothing but what happened in the past 24 hours. And also, the Wednesday locker room on their day was the greatest content on this network, bar none. And I'll say it if Ben's watching it too. because I'm sure he agrees.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I will stick up for the Wednesday locker room boys all
Shout
day.
out.
The 11-11 boys.
11-11 boys.
Fucking yes.
Vincent McMahon doesn't retire every single day, so
Right.
Exactly.
You have to excuse us.
Yeah.
Also,
But remember, this is the guy that if you don't get to the show results fast enough, he starts posting them in the chat for you. So you kind of have to.
To be fair,
you have to know your audience. You know,
hey, you got to do your duty to the people, and he has done that. But at the same, you're right though. It's like if this was a SmackDown that capitalized on the chaos of what happened, then I think we'd spend a lot more time on this show about what it is. But we watched a SmackDown that was pieced together by sellotape, bits of string, and elastic bands, where Street Profits came out, 6-man tag, great. Lacey Evans did the same promo that she did for the past 3 weeks, great. Nothing. Shillelagh match next week, great. Have at it. But I'd rather why is this not at SummerSlam? Questions to be asked there. 6-man tags that got booked at the beginning of the show that happened at the end. Nakamura and Ludwig Kaiser. Like a lot of this, like.
Oh, we didn't. You guys, we didn't talk about at all. That was my favorite part of the show.
Oh, please tell.
JEFF. JARRE. Double T. That's
he
double
spelled
J.
it with an A as well.
Jeff
He's
Jarrett.
a company man through and through. Oh,
the world's
man.
greatest singer, the world's greatest entertainer, and the world's greatest special guest referee.
Oh, and don't forget world's greatest tag partner with Jay Lethal in Ric Flair's last match.
Oh my God!
Can we talk about that for a minute? What the fuck was that?
How did that happen? How do you have
you guys don't want to know?
Vice president of live events show
up
on facing Andrade Idolo and Ric Flair versus Jay Lethal and Jeff.
No, the match I can let go. The video promo that they did. Who the fuck's who's letting Ric Flair blade a week away?
Why is he saying
what's going on?
Why is he saying it's a hard way?
It's not
What
a chance.
Doing? Why does anybody like?
I don't even know.
Oh man, that
Ric Flair's old, like he doesn't have enough blood to keep his heart going right now. We all know this, and the fact that he's willing to get a razor blade, like respect to him that he's willing to do this, but do it in the ring, not in the car park.
Yeah, he's trying to sell tickets to a sold out show.
Yeah,
like exactly. Like what? I was honestly buckled watching that. I was like, Jeff Jarrett, great. Jay Lethal, great. Ric Flair cut himself open, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Did you guys hear the My World episode from this week?
No.
Yes, I've heard some of it. I haven't heard all of it.
So they're like they're doing this whole podcast like they're jabbing at each other. Conrad and Jarrett like are talking shit back and forth to each other like they're heated.
As they usually do.
Yeah, but they do it like joking and stuff. But now it's like they're serious. Like they're actually saying stuff that's like
God.
you gotta listen to it. But that's the thing. They're doing this like the shit is real. And then they're sitting there. The episode is about Ric Flair, and they're talking about his history of Ric Flair. So they're talking about like worked matches and all this stuff. It's like, wait, are you trying to make me believe this is real while you're doing a podcast talking about worked matches? Do you even like what kind of like bizarro inception? I don't even know what you call this. What do you guys? Isn't it enough to just say Ric Flair's having his last match? He's doing it with the son-in-law. He's wrestling Jay Lethal. Jeff Jarrett. Would you like to please come and see it? Do you have to turn this into an angle with blood? And like Jay Lethal is upset because he helped Ric Flair train and he's not even going to be on the card. So he turned on Jeff Jarrett. So now he's in the main event of the card. And Jarrett, on Ric Flair. And then Jeff Jarrett tries to help Ric Flair. And then he turns on Ric Flair too. And now we have a fake wrestling match we're going to have at this. Is this way too much? This is a little too much.
Can I just ask, is the crux of the storyline the fact that Ric Flair said on his podcast, with Conrad, by the way, that Jay Lethal had a bad attitude. Is this where this whole thing came from?
That was part of it, which,
what the fuck? He's a great chain partner, but he's got a bad attitude. I'm not having a match with him.
Yeah, I don't know. But that's stupid. But let's on topic. Jeff Jarrett here on SmackDown. And he's wearing a referee shirt even though with no sleeves, even though he's not gonna do any refereeing on this shit.
He's not even on ref.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's a good. In all honesty, this is a good. I'm very intrigued by this as well, considering everything we've been talking about regime changes and shuffling. Yeah. Because now you got a Jeff Jarrett who's worked himself in there, and it's like now that's a guy that he has a lot of experience doing a lot of this stuff, and he can fill a lot of roles in case they're looking to kick anybody out. So. And I think
his accountant must be happy that weekend. By the way, he's got the Ric Flair match in SummerSlam.
Yeah, right. But that's good though. That's really good because it's showing that the WWE doesn't exist in its own universe, pun intended.
Right.
It's like it exists within the entire larger wrestling world, and hopefully we can see it open up a little bit more. There may not just be one Forbidden Door pay-per-view. There could be lots of different Forbidden Doors to lots of different multiverses.
Well, was quite a lot of. There was a lot of discord about that over the past over the past day or so. Is that this opens a lot, as you say, it opens up a lot of doors for like crossover pay-per-views. Like we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago about what if AEW and WWE did a Forbidden Door pay-per-view, and suddenly at a drop of a hat, this now becomes a possibility. This becomes like, if the right people talk to the right people, because there's no Vince there now, we could have feasibly WWE in New Japan, WWE in AEW. Christ, WWE might go into their own bubble and like do WWE in ICW and things like that. Like these weird.
Well, maybe not that
crossovers.
One, but
don't break my heart like that. but these possibilities are endless now, and it'd be fascinating to see because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. We said, well, what if AEW did a WWE Forbidden Door? And it's like there's absolutely no way this could happen because WWE and by virtue of Vince would be like, no, can't have this person lose, can't have this. Whereas you've got someone like Triple H and talent relations and things like that who could be a bit more open-minded and say, okay, I don't mind this person losing, but we need Roman Reigns to come out on top. But what about if Daniel Bryan beats a Nakamura? If
you're just
FTR beats you, that's a whole kettle of fish for another day. But it does open the door quite a bit,
right?
Yeah.
And Jeff Jarrett can help with that for a live event. He's the MVP of live events.
Honestly, MVP of the weekend has to be Jeff Jarrett, and it's not even started yet. Just for the fact that he's managed to blag himself a SummerSlam match, a big SummerSlam match at that, just by being there as a ref, and then being the guy who wrestles Ric Flair in his final match that should never happen, but he's happening. What a world we live in.
It's great.
What an absolute world.
It's beautiful. Buckshot Kid also says you're forgetting about Mickie James. Well, I mean, I didn't forget about her, but I was just thinking in terms of like that's probably something that was not a Vince McMahon certainly idea.
Right.
He may have just been like, I don't care, but
at the time as well, start. Like they were scrambling for people as well at that time for the Royal Rumble. If I remember rightly, they were like,
allegedly,
we don't have enough women.
Yeah.
And like you look at NXT, it's like, yeah, these are good and all, but what's going to pop a crowd? And I think that was part of it, where they had to bite the bullet a little bit and swallow their pride and let Mickie James come in. But
come in with the title, with her music from Impact and everything along those lines, so that we could get there. I mean, like, let's be honest. If this was WWE, they would, and they weren't hard up for a wrestler, they'd probably go, okay, you're going to come in as Mickie James as we know you, as our thing, not your whole deal. But they knew they were up shit's creek, and if they were going to get her, well, we need her as Impact champ. I think the thing that just really screams more about that, though, is how long they let her stay in the ring. You know, that I think that was the bigger.
They don't care about that stuff, John.
I mean,
it's all right.
I mean, you have to look at that visually as, you know.
I suppose it's bigger for Impact than it is for WWE.
Right.
Like Impact can make a case and say, "Oh, she's done really well in that." And so, I get where you come from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think they mind either, because if she ain't winning, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long or how short she stays in. That's generally in battle royals. That's up to you. I wouldn't read too much into it. Anyway,
But then you've got someone like Mickey James who could kind of help guide things a little bit. She's been in there before, and
there's no, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. But anyways, the main point is Jeff Jarrett's great. Ain't he great? All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wrap you guys' show up, but I'm going to wrap myself up if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here.
Thank
of course, you can always find me at Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms, including Twitch.
Especially Twitch. Go sub. Sub. Give that man some money.
Get it done.
Hey, all right. Calm down.
Get done now.
I'm not Brock Lesnar or anything. Okay, don't worry. So, just but I would like to see you. It's your chance to get in arguments or talk to me, on your own time when we don't have time to cover every single one of your guys' comments here on the show. You can come and heckle me in there. That'd be fun. And then what else? Next Level Wrestling Review. Be sure to tune in when Big Ray and I are going to probably talk about this Vince McMahon stuff again. The Impact Attack, we'll probably touch on it briefly, but that's with Brandon and Colin, so that's going to be fun.
I feel like we're overdue. I feel like we're overdue returning the favor. If you ever need someone to jump in and do the NX Next Level podcast or the Impact Attack, you should give one of us a shout and we'll jump on.
Okay, well,
I'm just
saying.
We'll be in touch with that. I'm just saying, as the guy who was there as part of the greatest opening of NXT level ever, that was put on the Ham Media Group for a while. I'm just saying.
Well, speaking of, okay, I'll keep that in mind. Don't get desperate. It just makes it sad. But speaking of wonderful special guests, also speaking of which, and this is for you too, John, because you probably know this, but you're a big mental health advocate, and both you guys are, and so you know the importance of that, and you also may have known about Ray's health scare recently that he had, where he went to the hospital, diagnosed with high blood pressure, all this stuff, everything. You can definitely hear Ray tell that story on this past week's, or 2 weeks ago. Well, was it this past? No, it was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago?
Okay. It was 2 weeks ago when he told the story. And then we were, so then he wanted to reach out, and we had Stevie Richards come and record a segment with us that we played on last week's Next Level Wrestling Review. But that segment with Stevie Richards is available on its own on the Hami Media Group YouTube channel. It's almost an hour where we sat down and talked about the relationship between physical health and mental health and certain things. And we kind of, it wasn't a super structured conversation, but we touched on a lot of points, I think, that can resonate with a lot of people in terms of just, how do we take these steps when we're not sure where to go next and everything like that, and what's Stevie's experience. So he was gracious enough to talk to us about that and give us his time. So be sure to give us your time if you didn't check that out. And that's just about everything for me, guys. So thanks for inviting me on here today. I only planned to stay a little bit, but now it's the longest in history.
Longest ever.
Yeah,
Longest
worth
ever, every minute of it. I'm on the couch tonight, but it's worth every minute.
Yeah.
It's worth every minute.
Yeah. How dare you have a few extra minutes doing something fun for yourself? You get to sleep on the couch. That's a wonderful relationship.
Totally.
So anyways,
as long as I make the main card for UFC London, I don't mind. It's all good. But just before you go, just as you mentioned that, I'd love, just throwing it out, easy to say this when we're on a podcast and we're talking about things, but we could maybe talk about this down the line, but I'd love to see a podcast on Hammy Media Group where we do like an hour or so of just talking about mental health, get the chat involved, kind of, I'm not saying totally bleed ourselves out, but give an environment where we can kind of talk about these issues and how we can help each other out, or what positive steps we can take to make things a little bit better. It's not said enough. You look at the wrestling world as a whole just now, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in the sort of heelness or the venom and kind of all these little things. It's that environment can sometimes be a bit over the top, kind of hard to kind of deal with. Sometimes it's hard to interact with people, but that's just kind of on Twitter and things like that. Obviously we all have our own lives and things like that. I would absolutely love it if we could just spend an hour a week or something like that. Just, it doesn't even have to be a podcast, just a room on a Twitch stream or something like that, whereas everyone in Hammy Media Group can kind of get together, kind of let off a bit of steam, have a bit of a laugh, but then kind of talk about their own things and do like that. I'm not saying, maybe I'm saying this in the heat of the moment, but it'd be kind of food for thought. It would be great if we could sit down and talk about that.
Honestly, you could do a whole series on it, but somebody's got to want to head that up. I mean, of course, we're probably looking to add new content all the time. So if somebody wants to organize something that becomes like a series, because it could easily be a series, and it would need to be in order to even, because it's a never-ending thing, and you're always going to have.
Like I would kind of see it as like a monthly, like even like a monthly checkup. Like if we had like the same people all the time come in every month and just have a chat, and then if people want to who watch on YouTube, say like you guys in the chat on YouTube, you can come in and watch us just talk about these issues and things like that once a month. And if you want to get involved, maybe get involved, and we do these things like that. It doesn't seem like much, but the small things make like a big difference, you know, like even just coming and having a chat. It's not even just having a chat. It's like knowing that it's a real thing. Even like the best of us have these issues, and like just giving you the advice and the information and guidance just to come here. And it doesn't have to be like come in and talk about what's going on in the world. If you want to kind of escape and just have fun. And I guess that's what these podcasts and things are great for, is like you're just kind of get in a space where you're safe and welcome and you can be yourself, then more power to you. Come into it. Like I'd love us to have that. Like I'd love that thing. Maybe I'll try and push that. I'm not trying to promote myself, but like I think that's something, as you say, like it was a great podcast with Stevie as well. It's like, could you imagine once a month that a bunch of us with Stevie just sit down and talk about these things, maybe things what we could do to make positive changes and things like that, where it's not like you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, come on in, sit down. If you want to take things in, you don't have to. If you want to talk, you don't have to, but you're welcome all the same.
Well, sometimes I feel like that's what these episodes end up being, even when we're just supposed to be talking about wrestling, or the people in the chat come to interact with the community. They often have their own conversations on the side. Yeah. They're having it right now about the Briscoes and FTR. So it's like, not now we're not taking offense to that, but we're just saying how like the sense of community,
that's the beauty of it,
the Hameen Media Group has is what makes things like that possible, and what, you know, that's what would, you know, probably prompt Ray to think about it in the first place. Besides the fact he doesn't have to put all of his business out there and talk about things like that, but he thought it would be a good idea because he knows that just him talking about himself has effects on other people, and people that not only just the people that support him, but just in terms of people just seeing they're not the only ones going through something right now. There's other people. And if other people can be strong, I can be strong too. That's kind of the message. And a lot of times people just feel like it's too overwhelming and don't know, like, well, what can I do? I've been stuck in this job, or I'm stuck with my family. I don't have any paralegals to sign NDAs. I'm just stuck with the same old people. So, you know, there's all kinds of different, you know, situations, but even just hearing that you're not the only one that's going through stuff, sometimes even that's enough. But anyways, that's so that's something we did. So once again, check that out. That'll be free forever. And once again, thanks to Stevie Richards for doing that with us. And that's gonna be it for me, guys. So I will take my leave now, and I will see you next time.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and join us for this as well.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Peace. Oh God, I'm gonna have to go through this chat quickly because I have to try and figure out. Oh, there it is. Something head track. We kind of want to talk about this before we close it out. Made a great comment. Brock could beat Roman, and Theory will cash on Brock. Just saying. Sonic, if this happens, you're coming on the show live with us, because fucking Mystic Meg that shit.
But here's my thing, and as a lot of people said, he cashes. Because here's the biggest thing. They're saying they've been pushing this. 85% of the people have cashed in and won. You know, that's the big percentage that they've been promoting this whole time. So it's almost as if they're building it up for Theory to not
He's going to be 25. That's what he's going to be.
He's going to be that 15% that didn't do it. And so
remember when it was 100% and it was extra juicy? Listen, Damien Sandow and I get it, but at the same time, you fucked it for us all. And it's not his fault. I'm obviously creative, but at the same time, I was like, if every single one won, could you imagine the juiciness of Theory right now having that contract?
Well, I mean, I
Like
think
that
here's the
that
thing.
would be extra juicy.
Because here's the thing, though, Sandow proved that you could lose it and not cash in and lose, and so that opens the door for something like this,
Yeah.
where you have somebody like Theory is like, okay, they taken their opportunity, they have their advantage, but he could still not win.
To be fair, the Sandow thing was a pain in the arse because it was like, I'm going to cash in on you now, and you're going to know all about it. It's like, just say it in front of the guy. Oh,
Yeah.
no offense to our boy from the former boy from the A show.
Yes.
But still. Anything else we want to talk on before we go on? It's like, obviously we've not talked about Smackdown. I don't think we will talk about Smackdown now because we're 2.5 hours into this massive show. By the way, just a quick mention to the chat. Thank you so much, guys. The input and the responses and the chat, things that we've bounced off of, even if we disagree with you, it genuinely is much appreciated. It's worth our time doing this. You know. This is exactly what we look for when we do the podcast. So thank you so much for doing that.
Makes it worthwhile.
Absolutely. Like the fact, see, when we sit here and we talk about this utter nonsense that happens in wrestling, and then you see this, like you'll see it yourself now because you like, but the chat goes ping, 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 and you just goes for this. And you sometimes, I'm not saying this a bad way, but sometimes you're kind of like focused on what you're talking about. You don't really pay attention to it. And now and again, you look in, you're like, what the fuck are they talking about? And you go through the chat and you're like, wow, this is like, you guys just go straight for it. There's no mercy. You're involved with each other, and that's what matters. And I don't know if that gets said enough on this network, but my God, guys, it's brilliant.
This is the reason why we do this.
Absolutely.
You're the reason why we do this.
Right. Sir Jab's made a great point here, and I'm going to have to say it right now. Seth Cashin is the best of all time. There is absolutely no topping that. I'm sorry. You could do that exact thing beat for beat 2 years from now at WrestleMania. It's no the same. Like Seth, like I spoiled it for myself, by the way. I'll tell the story before we close off, right? So WrestleMania 31. We're watching it. I'm at a mate's house, and we're kind of watching it, and we're sitting there going, we're watching the match, quite good. Roman and Brock is not really a bad match now, 9 out of 10 times, so fair enough. And we're watching it, and I was like, what's with that cameraman? That's what fucked it for me. I watched it live, spotted a cameraman facing the stage. I was like, what's with that cameraman? And then like 2 minutes later, Seth sprinting down the ring. He was like, for fuck's sake. It was brilliant, but at the same time, it was so like kind of like split. I was like, oh my God.
Right. But how
this
many
is amazing,
people,
but for fuck's sake, why did I do that to myself?
You and I are those kind of people who would see that. Like, I guarantee you 99% of the people won't see that. But you and I who have like production degrees and theater experience and all that kind of stuff, we see that.
Ruin it for yourself.
It sticks out like a sore thumb, and we're going,
why is that happening right now? Like this is to the extent we're talking about here. If you see a light like 3 inches to the left, you're like, why is that light 3 inches to the left? What's going on? Who's directing this? And then you see someone walk in, it's like, oh fuck, that's why it was 3 inches to the left. That's what we're talking about, and it spoiled her.
Like the first time I watched Usual Suspects, in 30 minutes I figured out that Kevin Spacey was Kaiser Soze, and I was like, it's like when he's telling the story, he's looking around, because like I told my buddy, like we're watching the movie, and about 30 minutes in, I said, so is Kevin Spacey Kaiser Soze? And they're like my buddy pulls me to the side. He goes, you see this movie before? And I'm like, no. I mean, this is the first time I'm watching it. He goes, why would you say that? I say, like, and I explain like the things that I saw that like, makes it happen. I said, it just makes sense that he's Kaiser Soze because of the story he's telling. And I said, there were just some little things that popped up that just kind of were like, and as he's telling the story so he's like, well, no, it is, but I can't believe you said that. I'm like, bro, I mean, but there were some little production things that I saw in the storytelling that I was just like, okay, as they wrote the movie, I was like, I'm picking up on these things, that it's that. So I mean, I'm a bad person to watch movies and TV shows with, because
but then like, that's the weird thing is like, it doesn't get spoken enough, right? We talk about smart marks in wrestling, but we don't talk about enough about like smart marks in TV, theater, and film and stuff. Like, they're out there, and we know. And it's just like, I'm one of them. Hell yeah! Like, My friend was on. If you got a minute to watch a very confusing and convoluted drama on, it'll be on BritBox. But if you've got iPlayer, BBC iPlayer, Control Room, really good. My mate was a character who did a lot of one-liners and they were great. Story wasn't like 100% for me, but it was good. But watch that Control Room. But also weird tangent. Weird tangent. We know what we watched yesterday, Matilda. And Denise Salcedo put like this tweet last night. It was like, "Where were you when Vince retired?" I was like, "We were watching Matilda. Miss Trunchbull threw a woman over the fence while Vince McMahon threw wrestling Twitter into fucking meltdown." It's like, tweet, that's me done. But yeah, it's kind of weird too. There's smart marks and everything, and seeing smart marks in theater. I like being that guy. Like, see when I go to theater now, it spoils theater for me now because I'm like obviously a big fan of it.
Right.
I love performing, doing that. But like, I went to a friend doing a project. It was great, by the way. But it was like me going like, what would I do?
You're right.
What would I do? It's like, shit, I've spoiled this. It's not a spoiled it, but I'm like, fuck, I need to get out my own head.
Right. You need to take a step back and just enjoy it for what it is. And that's hard sometimes for like when you and I have brains like that, when we're used to looking at something and going, this and that, I would do this. I mean, you know, it's like, it's really weird because like I have that as creativity, but also as a minister, when I walk into churches and I'm going just to visit, because I'm not at a church anymore, just going to visit a church, you know, I'm immediately walking in going, why are they welcoming here? And why is this here? Like, what's this? Why are they ordering their service this way? Why wouldn't they do like, and then like, so I'm out of service altogether. And the whole purpose of it, because I'm looking at the church going, why did y'all do this and this and this? You know, when in theory it would be better if you did this and this.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like, and I'm like,
you have like your own ideas that like pop in, and you're like,
and then like halfway into the pastor's sermon, I'm like, shit, what was he talking about? I don't know. You know, oh damn it, you know, I did it again, kind of thing, you know. And
I went to like a seminar a few weeks ago, and I used to do drama workshops a while ago. I might get back into them. And I remember going to a seminar about eBay stuff, and they were like, let's talk about this. Now, go into pairs. They didn't even designate them. It was like, go into pairs and talk about sustainable business and how you can like reuse cardboard and shit. And I'm like, fuck, man. I'm sitting there going, I could do a 2-hour drama workshop, and you could be on like a space right now, like doing like a weird drama piece for 2 minutes, talking about like recyclable cardboard or something like that. I was like, that stuff rhymes in my mind, and it spoils it for me because I learned a lot from that seminar, but at the same time, great comment by Sir Jam. That's why I was like, oh my god, earlier, if you're watching on the live chat right now, when you're at a live event and they sneak someone under the ring on the hard cab side, so you know, and like, I've seen this in Glasgow. I was like, what the fuck's going on? It's like 6 guys, right? They surround one person, right? They surround them and put like a blanket on them. And they just sprint from like the top of the stage for reasons. I don't know why they just come from the side, but they run from the top of the stage while like the lights are kind of down when they're watching that. And they sprint down the stage and then they just stand for a second, clearly so that the other person rolls under the ring. It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, you don't, obviously when you're like watching on TV, you don't notice these things, but when you're in live, you're like, if you like me or you, but like, what the fuck is that? Who's that? like, and you sit there for the next segment for the next like 5 minutes, like, who's that person on the ring? He's coming out. They're coming out. They're coming out. When are they coming out? Who is this person? Why are they coming out? When are they coming out? What are they going to do when they come out? And you have so many questions, and then they come out like, I knew they were coming out. They were coming. Like, it's one of those weird things, but you can't. To be fair, you can't avoid them unless you're Mick Foley, who I remember telling a story when they camped out for the whole.
And they were like, they had buckets to piss in, and like they were sliding food under the thing, and he had like a cooler of food and drink, and they had a bucket to piss in, and that's how he hung out for the home.
That is commitment, by the way. I see that. If you listen to this for the deep chat events, we've done this like 2 hours ago. Rewind it and all that. We'll close off soon. We'll just
I actually, because I'm a lot later than I thought. I've got a thing.
Yeah, we were a bit deeper than we thought we were going to be. Sorry, Headshot saying he's going to play PS4 Marvel Spider-Man time. Good on you. It's a great game. I kind of gave up at the 100% quest, but I hope you stick to it because it's worth it if you can do it, if you're good enough for it there. I think this is a great time to play it. A good time to close it. This is a banger of a show. Like, we barely talked about SmackDown. If you're here for the SmackDown review and you've listened all the way through, I really do apologize, but bigger things took precedent. It was, as I say at the beginning, and I've said in the description of the show, it was a vanilla show. If you watched it for what might have happened, Stephanie McMahon filled the blanks. Brock Lesnar appeared out of absolutely nowhere. We had a great debate about that. If you're just jumping in on the live chat right now, I implore you, while you're still here, rewind, listen to it. If you're on Channel Attitude, thank you for spending the time listening to us here. But yeah, let's get the plugs out of the way. If you want to listen to us, there's places you can do that. If you're not on the live chat right now and you miss it, you've got very limited time to listen to this on YouTube. Fuck, I've got these, by the way, just tangent. I've got these bloody statements. You know, I'm going to say the statement now. I said to you, have you read this Vince McMahon statement? I'm going to read it now. I've not done a duty to do this right now. I'll skip the WWE statement. You can go to corporate.wwe.com and you can get the official statement. But I remember before we went on this chat, and I said to you, did you read the memo that Vince McMahon sent? Right. And you said no. And I was like, I can't wait to read this out to you. I can't believe it's taken us 2 hours and nearly 40 minutes to talk about this. We don't have to go into too much description, but you know what? In fact, I'm going to go out of the way. I'm just going to put it on the live chat so you can read it as well. Because I can't believe this is real. I really can't. But where am I here? Yeah. So Vince McMahon sent out this memo to talent, to staff, to everyone. And it's how he wrote it was what blew my fucking mind. And reading it, I can't even give him the benefit of the doubt. So what he said was to all WWE superstars, as I approach 77 years old, brackets, OMG, am I really that old? Close brackets. I feel it's time for me to retire. I thoroughly enjoyed my passion, wisdom, and love for the business with you. No longer will you see the smiling, docile, level-headed, calm presence at Gorilla every week. Banter. Your dedication to WWE will ensure that our company will continue to grow and prosper. Our organization is nothing without you. You are WWE's only natural resource chosen to perform in front of a global audience. You are the WWE Global Ambassadors. Carry the WWE flag wherever you go. Wave it high and proud. And bust your ass to be all you can be as a person without an O, PRERSN, as a performer. One other thing. I won't be with you, but I'll be watching. And this is the ridiculous bit that I thought, what the fuck? Oh, it topped OMG. Remember to keep your hands up, grab hold, and sell. By the way, Smackdown airs live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on Fox. Vince, why would you advertise the show? Why would you advertise the show? They know. They work in it.
Yeah.
That was the comment. It was the fact that it was like, OMG, am I that old? I'm like, fuck, you're out of touch, mate.
Yeah.
Right. But interesting comment. I thought I'd throw that out there before we close up because I said it to you before we started. I was like, mate, have you read this? Canada Spaceman Ghostwriter? Probably.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
There was no way there's no way.
Yeah, but you know what? We can talk about this all next week. And the best way to get in touch with us, if you want to talk about this more next week, you can leave us a comment.
You can talk about all this next week. I will be chilling or traveling to chill on the beach. So
yeah, good for you, mate. Good for you. I'm kind of two minds if I should do a SmackDown review or a SummerSlam review. I'm really sitting there on the fence on it. I've got a Man v Fat 11-a-side game, friendly, next Sunday, so I got to try and fit the time in for it. But I might do a SummerSlam review instead. We'll see how it goes. If you see me on a Saturday, it means my time's not working out where I can't do the SummerSlam review. But if I'm here on a Sunday, we're doing the SummerSlam review, boys.
And who knows? You may get a quick run in from me at the beach. So
who knows? We'll see how it goes. But if you want to get involved with that ahead of time, if you want to get involved with that before we go live on YouTube, before we get onto Channel Attitude, there's great ways you can do that. You can get in touch with us directly. Email us, smackattackhammymedia@gmail.com. You can tweet us directly at smackattackhmg. If you want to get in touch in any way, shape, and form, if you want to be part of the crew, if you're not part of the Hammy Media group, how the fuck are you not when you're listening to this show? Follow us. Part of the group on Facebook. I say follow us like it's a group. Just join the group on Facebook. Hammy Media Discussion Group on Facebook. Great place to be. There's some discussions on all topic points. If you've got something to say, go and say it. Put a post out there, and people will respond. If you post it, they will come. We do live chats about all shows: Raw, SmackDown, Impact, AEW, all pay-per-views that come on. Just get involved. Do pick'ems for WWE pay-per-views. There's a SmackDown pick'em thing coming up right now. We do a league every year. Get involved, play your part. It'd be great to have you there. And if you want to listen to some content that's not on Channel Attitude, I'll get to the Channel Attitude part. In fact, no. Rewind. If you want to listen to this show, if you're not listening to us on YouTube right now, and if you're listening to this and watching us on YouTube and listening to us on YouTube, if you're not on Channel Attitude, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
For less than a cup of coffee, go on to Channel Attitude, channelattitude.com/Hammy Media Group. There's so much great content on there. You don't just get the Smack Attack as an audio podcast, you'll get the Monday Locker Room, the Friday Locker Room, the Impact Attack, the NXT Level podcast, the Light the Fuse, and so much more. Brilliant content with some of the best minds in professional wrestling. We're talking Ben Hameen, Stevie Richards, the Vet on regular occasion. Vince Russo jumps in now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Get in on that shit. That is a brilliant set of content that is for you, that will give you no bullshit, no nonsense. Get in on that. It's just less than a cup of coffee. channelattitude.com/Hammy Media Group. If you want to listen to some free content, all you need to do is go to your favorite podcast provider and search for Hammy Media Group. You'll get podcasts like the NFO Star Trek podcast. There's the
Not anymore.
Review podcast.
Not
Is that
anymore.
Gone now?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're on a different platform. They're on a different
Mother
platform.
fucker.
Yeah, they triple GGP.
Great God, Papa Dom, you fucked with my flow. I'm not having that. I'm not having that. But okay, so it's not there anymore. But you'll get the South Park podcast. You'll get the ridiculously random podcast with HMG's own Big Ray Hernandez and Colin Rice song. And of course, you'll get the Academy Star Trek podcast with one and only John Enright and Triple D, Demetrius Zerdos, every week talking some of the best Star Trek podcasts you can find. I'm just going to say it because I'm busting my chest out and I'm proud you did a podcast on it. A couple of weeks ago, they did a podcast based on what Star Trek ships could be similar to sports cars, like everyday regular sports cars.
And where did we get that topic from, James?
Oh, I don't know. Some incredible, sexy producer. Great podcast to listen to. They do so much stuff. And even if you're not familiar with Star Trek, and this is something I don't say enough, is if you're not familiar with Star Trek, you're not great with it, listen to it and even listen to the Trek Rec section. Because if you're like, I like what they're talking about, but I'm not too sure what to get into, the Trek Rec will get you on the right way. They've recommended some great stuff that you can jump in and listen to. It's well worth your time.
And also, guys,
speak about it as well.
And there's a couple others. There's a PWR, the Pro Wrestling Revolution, is on there. Also, there's the Garden of Doom new show that showed up. I don't know where it came from. Where they talk crystals and other skulls, and they talk things like the Red Planet. There's some interesting like conspiracy and like mysticism type stuff that they do there. It's a very interesting show. And then of course the Blow Off makes its appearance every now and then with Jargo and Jimmy T. So guys, there's a lot of still really good stuff on the Hammy Media Group. Yay, the Academy ran off the NFO, but not really. You can just technically you can find their feed like separately now. But, there's all kinds of stuff for you to listen to. Like for us, like tomorrow, we're recording for our next episode of the Academy. And so and then we'll probably take a week off because I'll be on vacation. But we may record early before I leave. Who knows? But the whole idea being is that, we're going to record and we're going to talk and we're making it intentional to be a show that you guys can listen to. And we're a show that is dependent on what you guys do. We can continue to do the things we want, but we want to hear from you guys what it is that you want to hear about Star Trek or guests that we were trying to get. There may be an opportunity for me to go to Heritage Auctions here in Dallas, which is a large auction house that has had things like the Phase 2 phaser that William Shatner held from the original series that sold for $615,000. My buddy Dustin works there, and he says, "Hey, if you want, I can get you to come in and we can even record some video or do whatever to show what we've got and talk about it. I was like, yeah, that would be fucking cool. So maybe in a couple weeks, you might be hearing a different episode where it's me with a video and I'm talking about the different things I'm seeing at Heritage Auction and then getting Triple D's response to that kind of thing. So that might be coming in the works a little bit. Yeah, I know Captain Kerr said the Star Trek show sucked, that Gene Roddenberry would roll over was great. I trust me, I'm a big enough nerd to be following what's going on at San Diego Comic-Con. Mind you, this is at the panel where it's William Shatner introducing the movie about William Shatner, produced by William Shatner, with fans funded for the movie for William Shatner. So
yeah,
let's be honest here a little bit. I mean, and let's also remember too, Gene Roddenberry wasn't necessarily the model of a human being. Towards the end, he was quite the alcoholic and cooked up, drugged out guy who was banging all kinds of chicks and coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas, and actually almost killed Next Generation seasons 1 and 2 before they slowly pushed him out to the side. Because let's be honest, seasons 1 and 2 of Next Generation, not the best, and that had Roddenberry's hand on it, and being able to kind of move him, kind of like it was the Vince of the time, needed to be moved out of the way so we can produce some great stuff. Now, has everything been great? No, but Strange New Worlds is. So we do talk about that a couple weeks ago. Find out what we said about that. Lots of good stuff on there. So
and that's a perfect note to close this show off. I'm actually going to take my headphones off because every time I've done an outro, right, I put the music on. I'm like, and it sounds so shit. So I'm going to just take my headphones off for a little minute. Bear with me. Don't you dare sass me. But thank you so much for listening to the show. So, oh God, I can't even get the music on. What the fuck am I doing? Vince McMahon is out the door. WWE is all changed now. What will become of SummerSlam? What will become of WWE even just a week from now? There's only one way to find out. There's only a way to talk about it, and that's by joining us next week for another edition of the Smack Attack. Thank you so much to the chat. Thank you so much to you listeners. We appreciate you. Thank you for your time, and we will see you next week for another edition of the Smack Attack. Cheery!